world is good. We don't really know where the world is gonna go, but now everybody knows that you can't stop for too long. Got to keep. But now everybody knows. Got to keep.
You don't have to be retired to receive tax-free income. The problem is the vehicles that we've been conditioned to believe to help get us there were never designed to produce income.
Got to keep on. What you want to be, going, you will see.
Oh, yes.
It's your destiny, be in harmony. We were never meant to be apart. What you want to be, going, you will see. You can have everything you want. It's your destiny, be in harmony. Ooh.
If you had a machine in your garage and all you had to do was put a quarter in it and it printed out $100. Put a quarter in it, printed out $100. Would you ever stop that machine from running?
But now everybody knows.
So what if you use that job that you hate as leverage to fill your machine so they can create income for you, so you don't have to worry about income?
Really know where the world is gonna go. But now everybody knows that you can't stop for too long. Got to keep going.
Hello and good evening. Tonight is going to be
That was somber.
hello. You know what it is? We've been traveling for 2 days. We had a quick trip for an event and came back, and we're a little wiped out. But this is actually the perfect conversation to have, because what we're talking about is what prevents people from getting started. Last time we showed you how Evelyn was in line to crush $130,000 in debt. This is a debt that she has been holding on to for 40 years, right? 40 years.
Yep.
And we showed her how to get rid of it in the worst case scenario, 5 years. So if a 30-minute phone call could do that, and there's all this information out online, YouTube, whatnot, what prevents others from getting started? It's this fatigue. It's a fatigue that happens all up here just in thinking about crushing debt, just in thinking about even attempting to build wealth. And that's what we really want to talk about tonight. So it's perfect that we're tired. We're a little tired, and I think more people are getting tired of carrying this debt. It's heavy, right? I think a lot of people are feeling a little sore. It's 40 years is a long time. Whether you've been carrying your debt for 5 years, 10 years, doesn't matter. You can put it down, and we're going to show you how to do that. But first, we have to understand that it's not the how, it's how to take action, right? How to get started. Right. It's what is preventing you from actually taking the step. Now that you know the how, then why aren't more people doing it, and why don't they take those first steps? We have some amazing people in the chat already tonight, and I am so excited about this and I'm like getting goosebumps, because I know that there are people who are in the chat right now. Peaky, hello. You are just, we adore you so much. We've got some awesome people in here. Cindy, who are either they are super passionate about helping others and waking them up, right? Or they are like super diving into this content right now because they're like, okay, I've got to pick up as many keys as I can to unlock as many doors as I have to be able to free myself from all of this. And so whether you're passionate about helping others or you are just passionate about your own journey, you can help somebody today, okay? Your information and your insights into how you got started, what was your aha moment about taking the first steps, even just to learn. You could help somebody today who also could be just watching, right? Maybe not even in the chat, who knows? But if you are in the chat, we don't know if you're watching or where you're tuning in from, unless you jump in and say hello.
That's right.
Yeah. So get in there. Everybody who's in the chat they'll give you a warm welcome. This is like a family in here, and we're all aiming to achieve our goals together. So get in here. What are you waiting for? Okay. So on that note, Let's talk about Evelyn and some of these things. Now, we change names when we talk about client information, right? Because we don't want to give people's business out there, of course. But she's really no different than many people that you talk to, right? And
Yeah,
many people that you don't.
absolutely. And here's the thing. On this channel, we focus heavy on making sure the right information is provided. It's that inverse triangle, right? The right knowledge plus the right vehicle plus the right you is how we hopefully are able to achieve results, the right results. And we talk heavily about the right vehicles, and we try to give away, not gatekeep, open up the doors to the knowledge. But you're right. When it relates to debt, a lot of the debt that we have, we've been conditioned to believe that it's heavy. We've been conditioned to believe that actually we're supposed to carry this debt. Like when we talk about mortgages, like when you peel back, well, how about this? The Latin word for mortgage is death pledge. And when you kind of break down the layers of where a mortgage came from and why a mortgage seems to be the only vehicle that we can use to purchase a home, like this we have been conditioned to believe these are the steps that we're supposed to take, not realizing that, you know what, maybe there is a better way. And our objective is just to kind of lay out other options. I'm not suggesting this is what you should do. I'm not telling you what you should do. What I'm just basically, well, the goal here, at least on this channel, is to just share other ways, many ways to 10. Share other ways that you can kind of take advantage of some of the opportunities out there so that you can accomplish your goals. And today is no different. Evelyn, um, this is a bit of a unique example because Evelyn is already retired. And because she's already retired, it is not the typical, hey, my objective is to be able to, generate wealth or the traditional means of going down this path of freeing up debt. It's very specific. She has some very specific goals. So I appreciated the opportunity to kind of break down what these numbers should look like because she's already in a place where her income is pretty stable, meaning this is what it's going to look like for a long time. And so it's, hey, where can she free up more income so that she can accomplish more goals and do what she wants? And so by doing so, what that means is we need to eliminate some of these debts that, right, she's been carrying for the last 40 years. And so that's what this is about.
Okay. So let's first break down, we're going to do recap, right?
Yep, I'll do a recap, and then the objective for today, because remember we went into fair amount of detail as to how this debt was eliminated a few days ago. What we're wanting to do today, what makes today unique, is we want to walk specifically through the worksheet that we offer on our self-directed.info site, where you can absolutely go there and receive this worksheet or this workbook for free, to be able to use on your own to be able to understand where you are. Because when we talk about velocity banking, there are some key details that need to be in place before you get started. You need to understand where you are. And so what we wanted to do was just step through the worksheet on how it was filled out, because I think what that will do, I know the sheet can still be a little confusing to some. And again, when you're talking about carrying a weight of debt, when you introduce this sheet that now I'm going to lay out where all of my debts are, where all of my expenses are, what my income looks like, that weight could get even heavier. So just want us to step through the sheet and kind of just show you how we got to the numbers that we did and some of the actions that we've taken. So that would also answer a few questions that some people may have on how to input information into this workbook.
Yeah. Okay. We see you guys jumping in the chat. Thank you so much. We love to see it. And uh, we're going to get to, well, anyway, let's just dive in. Let's just dive in. So let's go. Let's do it. No, that's not how we do it. What happened here? What did I do wrong? Hold on.
Are we rewinding?
Re- Rewind. Okay, this is how we do it. Come on now.
And so this is mainly for the people that we met with yesterday. We talked. So as I mentioned during the presentation, yesterday we were in Sacramento, by the way, on our financial freedom tour. And as I mentioned yesterday, we talk about a lot of things. We talk about self-directed IRAs and 401ks, which was the bulk of what the discussion was yesterday. But in addition to that, there are these other um, there are these other, I'll call it strategies that we talk to, velocity banking, how to leverage, use a first position home equity line of credit, talking through infinite banking, as well as maximum premium indexing, which is just how do you structure a properly designed life insurance policy with leverage to be able to achieve income. All of these vehicles go together. And from our perspective, for our journey, how we were able to reach 10, let's call it that, it started here, being able to leverage a self-directed 401k to help us consolidate debt so that we could effectively do velocity banking. Once we were effectively doing velocity banking and freed up cash flow, it put us in a position to actually qualify for a true debt tool. We talk a lot about debt tools, and the debt tool that we landed on was a first position home equity line of credit. Well, in the process of freeing up cash flow to be actually qualify for a first position home equity line of credit, that allowed us to free up even more cash flow. Well, when you free up cash flow, and again, we treat cash flow like employees, we got to go put those employees to work. So where do we put them to work? Well, it was putting our employees to work in this strategy so that we could actually generate, build more income, which ultimately transitions into wealth. So all of these pieces go together from our perspective. And so the idea is to kind of walk you through what that looks like. But today we're going to focus on, again, velocity banking. And the first thing that we want to do is just recap quickly, run through what we talked about on Sunday. And it was, let's first start here though. What is velocity banking for those of us? And again, I got Sequia in my head already saying, hey, but what about those people who have no idea what velocity banking is? So I want to do my due diligence to just make sure I check these boxes. So thank you, Sequia. Um,
Hey.
and it's, so what is velocity banking? Velocity banking is just a strategy. It's a strategy that is designed to help you reduce and or eliminate debt. Again, it's a strategy. It's not something you can buy. You cannot go buy velocity banking. It requires you to take action, which is also why we talk about not gatekeeping information. I really don't understand what people are paying for other than paying for people's time. Like I respect the fact that it may require someone and someone's time to be able to sit with you to walk through some of these things. So I understand that part. But as far as velocity banking, it's just a strategy, and it's a strategy designed to reduce the amount of debt that you have through the use of a debt tool. And a debt tool is just a vehicle that you use to be able to assist you in eliminating debt faster. And then once you do that, your cash flow increases. And as your cash flow increases, you have to find a place to put it. Otherwise, if you don't find a place to put it, what ends up happening? We end up spending it. And if you end up spending it, that's how that cycle repeats itself. You end up putting yourself right back in debt and the cycle continues. But when you free up that cash flow, again, if you're using the right tool and that cash flow increases, you then are looking for, hey, how can I put this cash flow to work so that it can build for me? And we kind of highlighted it already, but in the span of about a 30-minute call, we were able to identify how we could eliminate $30,000 of debt in 18 months and overall a total of 130,000 in about 48 months.
And for those who missed it, this
Mhm.
is no different than most people. This is debt she's had for far more than 48 months,
Right,
right?
right.
I mean, that's the majority of us, and we just don't even think to ourselves because these debts have terms, or they're unlimited terms, like a credit card, for instance. They don't care when you pay it off, right?
Right.
They'll just continue collecting. But for the majority of us, we just say, well, that's the term. My car, I'm going to be paying on it for 5 years. My house, I'm going to be paying on it for 15 or 30 years or whatever your term is. And that's usually just becomes part of the plan. It becomes part of your financial identity. Think about that as we go through this example. What
Yep.
is your financial identity? Yeah.
And just so I'm clear, did Frankie grace us with her presence in the chat?
She sure did.
Did I see
We've
that?
got the Frankster in the chat.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Hi,
Hey, Frankie.
Frankie.
All right. So again, we talked about a lot, but let's break down what that 130 looked like. So we were able to eliminate about $3,000 in debt fairly quickly. But when we did that, the balance on that line of credit went back up, so we had to eliminate that. And then in addition, she had a mortgage balance of about 99,000 that we had to eliminate. So the 3,000 initially, the balance on the mortgage, and eliminating the balance on the home equity line of credit that we walked into the situation with ends up being about 130,000, which we were able to eliminate. And again, how does she do it? Well, she did it through velocity banking. She did it through, let's see here, what I want to use. It was all that income going into her normal checking account, meaning the income that she makes on a weekly, monthly basis, obviously all ends up in her checking account, but it's taking that income from her checking account, moving it into some kind of debt tool. And in this case, it was a second position home equity line of credit. And then using that home equity line of credit to then pay bills from it, meaning all bills are now being paid from this home equity line of credit. And what that ultimately means is the cash flow left over ends up sitting on that line of credit. Pretty simple. It's getting multiple uses out of the same dollar, meaning when that income goes on to that HELOC, it satisfies the payment on that HELOC. So now there's no payment due. Then I'm going to take that same dollar that's sitting on that HELOC that dropped the balance on that HELOC, which also satisfied that payment. I'm going to take that same dollar and then pay my normal expenses and or debts. So I'm actually getting multiple uses out of the same dollar when I do that. And high level, what did it look like in month one? Well, in month one, again, we started this example with already having $28,000 on that line of credit. Why? When she originally got it from the bank said, yes, you can have a $40,000 line of credit. But before we give you that $40,000 line of credit, we want to make sure we're going to recoup some of the money that we're giving you. So they require her to pay off a few items. I think it was like an SBA loan, some other credit cards, and some other debts that she had. But it totaled about 28 grand. So we started this process with a HELOC with $28,000 on it. She already has cash flow as a result of paying off those SBA loans and those other things of about $1,496. And again, we immediately dumped another $3,000 onto the line of credit. So for a total, we started out in month one with a balance of about $29,000. And again, when we did that, when we paid off these credit cards, this cash flow increase. And what we're doing today is we're going to walk through what this actually looked like inside of the sheet when it happened. And long story short, it looked like this. Again, not going into all of the detail, but the income came in, went on to the debt tool. We paid bills from it, and we ended up with cash flow about $1,776, which allowed us to pay off that debt tool, pay back off that line of credit over time. And in the span of 48 months, we were able to eliminate everything. I do want to highlight this piece. I introduced this on Sunday, and that was in addition to using a debt tool to pay her debts, she also has an Amex with a 0% 0% interest, I think, for like 24 months. And so there's an opportunity to pay her normal expenses like utilities, gas, electric, cell phone, pay her normal expenses from a credit card, which allows her to capture points, cash back, travel rewards, and be able to use those things in addition to, again, keeping her balance at zero. Because what is she going to do when she pays her normal expenses from these credit cards? Well, she's going to take dollar amount from this home equity line of credit and simply just pay it off. So instead of it going here, it's actually going directly to the Amex. So she's actually not just leveraging a debt tool to be able to do velocity banking, but she's also leveraging a 0% credit card to be able to generate cash back and other perks. So pretty awesome. Go ahead.
One thing that I want to mention about this right here is this is what Evelyn's story in particular is something where depending on who she's speaking to, I think Evelyn had checked a lot of boxes. If you were to give her the standard financial profile, what she's trying to attempt, and her bigger goals are building a family bank. And so some of this, what you're seeing is like the rent and the mortgage, for instance. Some of this is a long-term plan.
Right.
But if you were to just assess her financial profile, like the fact her cash flow versus her, her income and her cash flow, if you were to just assess this standard wise, you would maybe give Evelyn a grade A. Like she would get an A+ for organizing her funds in this way and being able to leverage some of these things just on a basic level. She's really trying, and she did the best that she can do, and she was doing a pretty good job. It's just that she wasn't getting out from underneath the debt, right? Which was essentially robbing her of her actual leverage, like the leverage that she owns versus leverage that she's just borrowing, right?
Yep.
leverage that was hers. So the reason why I want to say this is because there's a lot of people out here who might feel like, well, I feel like I'm doing a good job. I have cash flow. I have money left over after paying bills, or I'm putting extra on the bills. So that's why I don't have as much left over. Everyone's situation looks different, but taking some of these bigger steps and seeing the impact that it can have will have you looking back going, gosh, if I would have known this sooner. It's okay. Don't do that for the case of this stream. What we want to focus on is how can we help other people, if they're learning about it today, not wait till a year from now to get started, right? Or longer. That's what we're going to focus on, is where you're doing a good job, but seeing the results, the way it makes you feel to even get started on something like this, because it's different. And where we've been trusting our financial advice, or where we got our financial advice from, for a lot of us, it was our parents, right? People that we were exposed to, and whoever's in our circle. That's the part, just hold on to that. And also the part about financial identity. It all fits together. But she did a good job, is my point here, is from many people's standards, Evelyn would have an A here.
Well, let me restate that in just mathematical form.
Okay.
And because these are facts. Majority of the people that I meet with, when it comes to cash flow, it's somewhere between $0 and $1,000. Meaning,
Yeah.
regardless of your income level, regardless of how much money you make, because usually what happens is, as our income increases, our expenses increase. Meaning, hey, now that I'm making more money, I need a larger home. Now that I have a larger home, I have a larger house payment, which means my debt ends up matching my income. So usually when I meet with people, it's somewhere between $0 and $1,000. So for her to be in retirement with about $1,500 a month in cash flow, that is absolutely A plus, because she's already further ahead than most people that I meet with when it comes to velocity banking. So you're
Right.
absolutely spot on.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
So, and again, we went into detail around this visual. I'm not going to do it today, but the moral of the story is, in a span of about 18 months, we were able to eliminate the credit card debt and the line of credit. But then we started chunking away at the home. And in chunking away at the home, we were able to eliminate the debt on the home in the span of about 48 months. And I'm going to say this without context, but me being the petty person that I am, we actually, in this example, did not fully pay the home off. Okay. We got the balance on the mortgage down to about 5,321. Yeah, 5,321 bucks. Meaning it was 99,000. And this mortgage she has been paying on for the last 40 years. She got the home in 1984. So it's got a balance of about 99,000 on it. I paid it down to about $5,321 left. When you do the mortgage payment on that dollar amount, it equates to about $37 a month. So from my perspective, and again, in this example, I'm saying she's going to pay that $37 a month for the next 17 years. You might ask why. Why? Because I want to be able to go back to the well as often as I want to be able to leverage, get a second position home equity line of credit to do other things. So I'm going to drag out this mortgage as long as I can. Can she pay off that additional 5,000 and be done? She absolutely can. And I am not saying don't do it. I'm just saying, from my perspective, being the petty person that I am going to drag out this mortgage forever.
Yeah,
Go ahead, sweetheart.
we are actually saying don't do it. If we had advice from our strategy, from how we've built our machine, we're saying don't do it. There's a benefit not to doing it. Now, a lot of people out here don't agree. They will have you paying off your mortgage fast. They will have you paying off all of your debt fast, chopping up your credit cards. And then in the event that something happens and you need to access leverage, you will have none. You will qualify for no more. That's the problem, is you're actually harming yourself more than you're helping yourself. And in this case, you're keeping an active line at only $37. Why not? Why would you not do that? So that's where I don't think that yes, you can do it however you want,
That's the part.
but the
That's
part
the part.
that if you're going to be doing it in an effective way, then you would not ever want to pay it off. You'd want to get yourself in a position where you have you qualify for insane amounts of leverage so that you can put that money to work.
We talk about this a lot. Financial institutions or financial advisors, banks, life insurance companies, they don't care about you. So it's not that, hey, we become now adversarial. It's how do you become them? So
Yeah.
this to me is putting us in a position to where we can become the bank, become the financial institution. Why? Because now I have this access to this unlimited leverage. And yeah, in some cases, you might have to qualify for it. But if you've got a mortgage with $37 a month on it, you're telling me you wouldn't be able to, with exception of DTI and credit. But if you look at the actions that we've taken here, everything that we've done is done nothing more than put her in a position to where she would be in I'll call it a good credit worthy position. DTI low, um, um, credit score high, putting herself in a position to where if she needed to go back to the bank and say that 40,000 was nice, but I think I need 80. You're telling me with a $5,000 balance on a home that's worth $280,000 that you wouldn't be able to qualify for that extra $40,000 on that line of credit? Should be able to qualify for it all day long, right? If not at your current bank, at any bank, if that makes sense.
Yeah, hang in here, Roger. I see you in the chat, and you're going to like this next part because there's a lot of people who think just like you, and this is why we're going over this information. He was saying that he doesn't want to carry any debt into retirement.
Fair.
So, yeah.
Again, there are many ways to tend. There is nothing wrong with that thought process. And what's so unique about today's example is with someone who is already in retirement. When we dig into the sheet, you will see the breakdown of her income and how it is very stable and consistent. So you're spot on with that because I agree with it. It's just when I'm sharing with you not paying off the mortgage, I'm walking you through how petty I am. So,
And
so
it's because why would you turn off you said go back to the well, but that's essentially it. It's there's leverage, there's a supply that actually exists behind your debt. A supply. Stay with me. And when you are doing a cost adverse, like cost reduction plan versus an income increase plan, that those are two different strategies.
Right.
So some people go into retirement, they think about retirement as I've got to get my costs down as low as possible. That can be true. Absolutely. But they're not thinking about that is a way to survive versus focusing more and prioritizing more, increasing your income, your passive income that you're not working for, or your income opportunities. Because even though you might not have a mortgage, you might not have a lot of payments for debt necessarily, there's still going to be living expenses that you can't control. If you don't have access to leverage when you need it, what happens when you need a car? What happens when you need access to care? What happens when you need something and you need to have leverage in order to have options? And that's really what it is being in control so that nobody can then tell you what your options are or are not going to be. That's the part here of becoming self-directed, is that you are in the driver's seat and you are taking control so that no one else can dictate how you're going to be living. The quality of care, the quality of food, the quality of your quality of life. That's where we do have options now to put ourselves in those positions because there are so many things we can't control, but this one we can.
Yep. And so how do we get there? And so usually it all starts with, hey, if you're going to meet with me and we're going to talk through velocity banking, my ask of you is you come prepared in understanding where you are currently. And one of if you don't already have a tool, we provide access to a tool right here at selfdirected.info/live, where you can actually get a full workbook to help you identify where you are today. Meaning, what are your numbers? Understanding your numbers. So when we talk about velocity banking starts with, why are we even here? What's the goal? What's the point? What's the purpose? And again, Even if initially the purpose looks one way, the goal looks one way, knowing that, you know what, the objective is to evolve or grow or move into a different space. Meaning, maybe the goal initially is, hey, I just want to pay off my student loans. Hey, maybe the goal initially is I've got this SBA loan that's been hanging out since COVID, and I just want to get that weight off of me because the government is starting to come after me. Like I respect that. Usually I go like this, but let's wave a magic wand. Let's say the debt is gone today. Now what? Once that debt is gone, what are you doing after that? How are you putting this money to work? How are you putting yourself in a position so that you don't end up right back in this situation? Because some of us, when we have the cash flow and if we don't know what to do with it, it ends up frivolously kind of running away from us. It ends up going towards things that, you know what, you end up kind of stepping back and going, I don't know where that money went. So it's identifying, hey, having a true goal in mind, a path forward towards whatever success might be in your case. And so we talk a lot about when you're trying to understand your goal, maybe it looks a little bit like this. And as it relates to Evelyn specifically, this is exactly how it looks. Meaning, she first started with, hey, I want to put myself in a position to where I can at least qualify for a HELOC. And so in doing so, that first goal was, what does it look like to get a HELOC in place? And when I have that debt tool in place, then I want to start tackling this other debt to free up more cash flow. Why? And again, without going into all of the details of the example, it's, hey, I'm on a fixed income. I've actually got two house payments. I've got my normal mortgage and I'm paying rent in the place because my daughter is actually paying, she lives in the actual home where the mortgage is being paid. So I want to consolidate, get it down to where I no longer have a mortgage payment and I will allow my daughter to continue paying it. So the next step was, hey, I need to get rid of this debt. And then once that debt was paid off, it's okay, the next step for me is the mortgage. So this is exactly how this process looks. But for most of us, and again, from my perspective, this is okay. Why? Because she has a specific need, a specific goal, a specific place she's trying to get to. But for most of us, it's a bit more complicated than that. For most of us, when we talk about knowing your goal or what is the goal, it might actually look a little bit, oh, grab that, a little bit like this, meaning it may start out with, hey, I want to first address some debt, but then it may turn into, hey, I also want to address this home. But the truth is, my objective, my goal is legacy. My objective, my goal is to be able to generate wealth and leave something for my kids and my grandkids in case something happens to me. It may be a little bit more complicated than, hey, uh, I want to finish my dinner and then have dessert. So it's just understanding where you are, knowing what your goal is. And then once we identify the goal, once we peel back the layers on what that goal might be, the next step is, hey, what are your numbers? Where are you right now? And how do we identify what your numbers are? Well, how about you go grab this sheet? And sweetheart, if you don't mind, let's jump into the workbook.
Okay.
Should be shared with you. But again, the next step is, hey, grab the worksheet, grab the workbook, and let's take action. Let's understand where you are, meaning what's coming in, what's going out. And usually the sheet starts out looking like this, right? There's a fair number of tabs at the bottom. And the first one is how to use the worksheet. In addition,
Oh,
go ahead.
I don't think they can see that.
Okay. I don't know how to help them see it. I think it's
Um,
just cut off based off how the
okay.
screen is used. But that's fine. This
No,
is the
let me
first
fix
tab.
it. Let me fix it.
Okay.
I'll fix it,
There you
guys.
go.
Okay.
So there are a series of tabs down here at the bottom. The first one being how to use the worksheet. And in addition, sweetheart, I don't know where it's specifically located. I know it's in the Facebook, but you've also done a tutorial on how to step through this sheet. Am I correct?
Oh, okay. So this tutorial and the how to do the sheet is when you click on, yes, I want the Velocity Banking worksheet, or you can go, you know what, I'll put it in the chat and in
Okay.
the description below for anybody else, the link directly to the page that has all the information about the Velocity Banking worksheet. It's free, by the way. You just grab it, but people got to know how to use it. And so we built a web page to explain that. And then you can jump in the Facebook group and get some help there too. So that's what I would suggest doing. And then if we need to do like a Zoom call to further discuss it, we can. But let's just walk through the basic points of it, because don't get all caught up in this sheet. This is just a way of getting your numbers together. This is not a magic sheet, right?
And so I normally go right to the income. And is it, I'm going to say this wrong, so I need to get it right, sweetheart. These are tabs or these are sheets? Correct me.
Hold on, I got to find you again. Yeah, so these are actually the sheets, but I think you could call them tabs. It's fine.
So now I'm confused because she got on my head last time when I was saying the wrong thing. So anyway, there's
because
several.
if you're
Go ahead.
pause.
Go ahead.
We're just out here married, y'all. Hold on a second. It's because you were talking about, I didn't know you were talking about the worksheet. And so when you were saying tabs, I thought you were talking about a browser tab. That's
I'm
where
not.
you were. That's where you can't exchange it if you're not specific inside of the sheet. That's all it was.
So Peaky, you tell me. Let's bring Peaky into this. Hey Peaky, what are these? Are these sheets or are these tabs? I just want to make sure I'm saying the
Help
right thing.
us
Help me.
solve this debate.
Right.
Okay, thank you, y'all. Jesus, Pete.
So ultimately, like I said, I start with the income. I'm going to start with tab because it just rolls off the
Okay,
tongue.
it's fine.
The income tab. And if you notice here, we've got Social Security, we've got a pension, we've got other income, and we've got additional rent from daughter. What are these? So when she went to the income tab, she immediately put in, hey, and again, she's already in retirement. So she's getting Social Security, she's got a decent pension, and she's have this other income, other pension, I'll call it, coming from her previous employer. And so in total, this is what she ends up with. But in addition, she has her daughter living in her primary residence. So the primary residence that she owns, her daughter lives in, and she's paying the mortgage. So there's an additional income coming from her daughter. And it's actually a little bit more than this, but $1,000 is a round number, so I just kept it there. So again, we got Social Security, pension, other income, and then the rent. And in total, that's about 4862 in income coming in every month. This is consistent, meaning there's no shift, no change, no fluctuation. This is the consistent income coming in. So now you have to dig into the expenses. So when you go to the expenses tab, it's identifying what are, let's see, let me make sure I got it.
Piggy's not going to answer. He's not getting involved. He's like, miss me with that.
I like it.
Meanwhile, other people are like, we're team sheets, we're team tabs.
See?
So yeah,
I'm not alone.
We're not the only
point
ones.
is, I'm not alone. There we go.
Gosh,
So,
are you married? Are you a team tab married to a team sheets?
right.
That's what we really need to know.
And you know what? You know what though? The truth is, it's the difference between Excel and Google Sheets.
Ah, okay, yeah,
I'm just putting it out there.
okay.
So when we dig into the regular expenses, we're talking about rent. So what is that rent? Well, again, Evelyn actually lives in an apartment. So she is renting a place because she does not want to live with her daughter and her kids, which again, I respect and I get.
And
so
we're not going to get involved with that.
exactly, because
We don't
here's
judge.
why. I would do the same. Like I'm right there with you. So the thought process is, hey, let my daughter have the larger property. She's paying the mortgage there, and so it's no different than if I was staying there because the rent where I'm staying is the exact same. The objective, though, hey, if I can eliminate this mortgage and put myself in a position to where now I have zero payment for where I'm staying because my daughter is able to compensate, man, that's huge. And so when we dig into the expenses, we've got the rent, utilities, lights, again, normal, basic stuff. Nothing too extraordinary here. Food and even tithe. Nothing's too extraordinary here. And when this sheet is designed to also be additive for you as well. So in total, it's about $2,100 in normal expenses. One other piece I want to note over here is identifying how these expenses can be paid is key as well.
Yes.
Meaning, hey, how are they currently being paid? Well, prior to implementing Velocity Banking, they were all being paid out of our checking account, as we all do. But coming over here and identifying, is there an option? Is it a possibility that some of these expenses can be paid by a credit card, by a line of credit? Because that will, again, allow us to understand what actions we can take in addition. So laying out the expenses, and then I'm going to jump back to the assets. So started with income. Hey, here's where money's coming in every month. Normal expenses. These are the normal expenses that in most cases don't change. meaning the electric bill will always be what it's going to be. It
Yeah.
may go up during the winter, I mean, go up during the summer and come down during the winter, but it's always going to be there. I cannot get rid of it. And then the assets, what are those additional assets that you have in play? And this is where we started breaking down what's going on with this mortgage. She's got a home that's worth 280,000. Current balance is about 99,000. Dollar amount is 1056. So the assets tab, the expense tab are both additive. These are meaning the amount that's being spent is added together. And then you jump over to the debts page. The debts page can be a little complicated because what I've seen is some people, there are, I'll call it duplicate amounts or duplications rather between the expense and the debts tabs. And I can understand the confusion, meaning let's say I'm calling my insurance payment, my State Farm insurance payment, an expense, but I'm paying that State Farm insurance payment by a credit card. So, does that State Farm insurance payment belong in the expenses tab or does it belong in the debts tab? Well, in my case, I'm going to call it out in the expenses tab because it is an expense, a regular expense. But because it's being paid by the credit card that is one of my debts, I'm going to zero it out on the expense tab, and I'm going to show that dollar amount being paid in the debts tab. So again, I can get a little bit confusing, and I understand that. But from her perspective, the debts that we have currently in place are we got this HELOC, and I just kind of highlighted what the initial monthly payment would, the interest only payment on this dollar amount would be. So that's the reason that 187 is there. But she got a HELOC, she got a few credit cards. There's she had named them specifically, but from our perspective, we're going to pay them off anyway. So I just called them credit cards 1 through 6, and they each have their own balance and their own limit. But when you add them up in total, it ends up being about $3,001 in debts that we are going to now pay off using this line of credit. And these other items down here were already addressed. So before we even started this process, these were already addressed in the sheet. And again, that's the reason why this HELOC is coming to us with a balance already on it. Balance is 28,000. There's a $40,000 limit, and and then the interest rates. Understanding the breakdown of what the interest rates looks like on each one of these vehicles. Again, this is normal. I'd say most people that I meet with, they've got credit card debt that is sitting at around 28, 26, 25% interest year over year. This HELOC specifically is at 8%, and we are using it as our debt tool. This far right tab it's pretty awesome how Angelique, how my wife put it together, because this column here, if you use it effectively and you use it correctly, it can actually take some action for you inside the sheet as well. So identifying this HELOC as the debt tool, and right now we are showing these credit cards as being active, meaning we have not paid them off yet, but we are about to. And once you pay them off, what you would want to do is just make sure you change their designation once they've been addressed. So you have the ability to have them as active. Maybe you want to use a credit card as a debt tool, or it can also be paused and or paid off. So it's just making sure you make that designation because there's some action that happens at the bottom of the sheet. So what do I mean?
Oh, it's not just at the bottom of the sheet. It's also on the dashboard
Yep. Yep.
sheet.
Yep. And we'll get to the dashboard sheet. But again, we started with income. I moved over to expenses, stopped at assets, and now we're sitting at the debts and identifying what those debts are. So if you come down here, it shows that we've got about $210 a month. I'm sorry, $210 a month in payments, a total of about 31,000 in if you add up all the balances that we are eventually going to be paying off. And so if you look at that total again, and now we're going to slide over to the far right and look at the inputs into this debt tool. Let's see if I can get all of this on one page. There we go. All right. So the debt tool that we identified again is this home equity line of credit. It already has a balance of 28,000. It has a limit of 40,000, balance of 28. Let me move this over a little bit. Limit of 40,000, balance of 28. When we identify our debt, our income, when we put our income into the sheet, we're depositing this dollar amount onto the line of credit. So if the line of credit is the tool that we're paying down, then the piece I think that confuses some is your income goes in as a negative number. because the income reduces the balance. So if you're going to put all of your income onto this debt tool, and again, in some cases, maybe when you do velocity banking, you're not able to put all of your income onto your debt tool. That's okay. But in this situation, in Evelyn's situation, she absolutely can. So all 4962 is going on to the debt tool. And when that happens, we put that number in as a negative number. It doesn't automatically um, um, input as negative. You have to make it that way. So you do have to put the minus in front. And then the bills, we've already broken them out. So the expenses, $2,100 a month. The mortgage itself is about 156. And what we're going to do is make a chunk from the line of credit for $3,000 to pay off those credit cards 1 through 6 that we had referenced. But there's this piece here that I want to highlight. And in most cases, when you're looking at the sheet, once you receive it from selfdirected.info // live, this does not exist there. So I want to break this down a little bit. There is interest that is accrued on this line of credit on a monthly basis. So I wanted to make sure it was kind of highlighted. So what I did was, again, the balance is 28,000. The interest rate on this line of credit is 8%. So if you look at the breakdown of this $187 a month, I know it's hard to read, I know it's hard to see, but it's sitting right here. The formula is simply the formula is simply this $28,000 times 8%, so 0.08, and that gives you the total interest on that dollar amount for the year. But the interest that you would see on your statement would be based off the monthly amount for that total. So as you divide that number by 12. So again, it's the total balance on the line of credit multiplied by 0.8, and then you divide that by 12. That gives you the amount of interest that you would pay for the month. Now, in some cases, everybody's HELOC is different. In some cases, it might be interest accrued daily. In some cases, it might be interest accrued monthly. I just used monthly because regardless, whether we're talking daily or monthly, it averages out to the same. So you can divide it by 365 if you wanted the daily interest. But again, I'm using monthly because that's how we're kind of walking through this sheet. So the moral of the story is the interest on this line of credit is $187. And because this is a formula, every month when I chunk away into my line of credit, when my income goes in and my expenses comes out, this field will calculate itself. So in this case, it's 187 in month one. And when you add the expenses and the chunk together, minus the income of a negative 4962, the ending balance for the first month is higher because of this chunk. So my balance ends up higher. It was 28 when I started this process. I ended month one at about 29,000. And I think in the example we were showing it should be the exact same. But anyway, 29,382 is that amount that we're showing at the end of month one.
Okay, I want to pause because this is a lot.
It's a lot.
The reason why some people, I think, are assuming that the worksheet should just be basic, put your income in, put your debt in, and then you get the cash flow number, and that's the only number that you need. When you see there's other velocity banking workbooks, worksheets, work tabs, whatever you want to call them, the reason why they're so basic in nature is because that's the intro to you paying for coaching on how to do this part. Ooh. So we're not going to get into it, but the point is that what we have done is we have provided you the ability to, because you can learn this. You don't have to have somebody doing this for you. Matter of fact, it's better when you don't, because then you understand where your opportunities are and are not. Again, the whole premise that we do here is that you're self-directed. You are learning how to do this. You are empowered by information to feel confident about the decisions that you're doing, not because somebody else told you those were the right ones to do and you're just trusting them. Because you got educated and now you know that those are the right decisions. Therefore, you don't have to have somebody else with you to be able to identify an opportunity. You don't have to have somebody else with you to level up your life. What this means here is instead of being funneled into a $4,000 program, by the way, that's doing almost the exact same thing.
Shots fired.
I'm not going to get into it. You can use that $4,000. You can learn how to do this. You can create your own. It doesn't matter. It's the strategy applied to debt that is the principle here. It's not our worksheet. That part doesn't even matter. It's that you understand how to use it. When you understand how to use it, and whether or not you know how to use Excel or you're doing this on paper, it doesn't really even matter. Doesn't matter. It's just the fact that you feel confident. That's the part. So I even though we walked through Evelyn's situation on the last stream, you can go get the deep dive there of how each month putting in this information and being able to detail and keep a ledger essentially of what you're moving, when you're moving it, so you can understand the balance and you can see it. Then it'll auto populate what that little graph looks like, right?
Yep, I'll get there.
Okay, well, I want to get to the part of why it took her so long to get started.
Well, you got to be patient.
Okay, fine. Carry on.
All right, so that's month one. So as we, again, from this point forward, it's just rinse and repeat. Meaning, from month two on, we're going to put in the income, we're going to pay bills, we're going to pay on that mortgage. And again, notice the difference between month one and month two. The amount of bills that we're paying, the dollar amount being paid every month is smaller. Why? Well, you have to come back over here. Come back over here to this sheet. It's because, get there, we paid off credit cards 1 through 6. So when we paid off credit cards 1 through 6, and again, I'm just going to change these to paid off. When we paid off credit cards 1 through 6, our cash flow increased because we were paying $210 a month, but now as a result of that chunk of $3,001, we ended up paying off those credit cards. So now those balances are zero. So that's a payment we're no longer paying. So now our cash flow has gone from $1,496 plus an additional $210, which ultimately means the expenses that we're paying has now reduced. And so that's why, go ahead.
And that's reflected on the tab
We will get
sheet
to the summary sheet,
that
sweetheart.
you're not showing them, which is the dashboard.
We will get to the summary sheet, sweetheart.
Okay, well, that's where that would be reflected.
We will get to the summary sheet,
Anywho.
sweetheart.
Okay.
Patience is all we
Okay,
need.
thank
Just a
you.
little patience. All right.
Hurry it up. We want to see the good stuff.
$28,000 of debt we started. So after month one, we're ending at $29,382. So as we move through month two, again, the difference between the bills being paid from month one to month two, that difference is that increase in cash flow. And so notice that also changed how much we're paying in interest. Because the balance is higher, because the balance is now higher, the balance increased from 28,000 to 29, that interest being paid also increases. But as we drive our income through the debt tool, pay our bills from it, we are now chunking away at the balance on that line of credit. So as you continue down this path, notice the balance on the line of credit is just simply getting smaller month after month. How? It's because the income that we make minus the expenses and the debts that we're paying is driving down the balance. The cash flow is sitting on the line of credit, chunking away at that balance, driving it closer and closer to zero. So as you see, it's getting smaller. Once we get down here to, there it is, we get down here to month 17. By month 17, the balance on the line of credit is zero. Now, I did something intentional here. If you notice, the amount deposited in month 17 is less than the initial income. Again, $49.62 was the original income being placed inside of this vehicle. If I put the full $49.62 into this vehicle, the balance isn't zero. The balance would be a negative dollar amount. So just so that I can show you a clean break, a clean cutoff, I only deposited what was required to actually make the balance zero. So where would this additional income that's left over go? Well, it would just be sitting in our checking account as normal. And that's okay. But my point is, in your case, it wouldn't look this way. You would have dumped in your full income and it probably would have given you a negative balance inside of your line of credit because you paid more than what was actually due. My point, the moral of the story is this debt is paid off in 17 months. And so what does that look like visually rather? So if you come over to the far right and you look at, make this a little bit smaller, 75, and you look at the visual or the graph over to the far right, it shows that performance over time. Again, this is just mirrors what's happening with the line of credit as your income comes in and your bills are paid from it and the balance continues to go up and down. You end up paying off this debt in approximately 17 months. And so what does this look like on the summary sheet now? So when you come over here to the summary sheet, this gives you a recap of everything that you've done over this period of time. And again, because we addressed the $3,000 in debt, notice how because we addressed the $3,000 in debt, it's reflected in the sheet as well as far as where that is payment. So debit payments, I think, is where it's showing here. Yep. So 180 and the $30. So that's $210 that we've now paid off inside this vehicle. And we've got our normal expenses, our bills being paid from our mortgage and everything that's left over. So everything is now sitting in this summary sheet as far as the details of what that looks like. Let me come back over here. But the piece I wanted to highlight.
Okay.
So now we are sitting here with a zero balance at month 17. Let's come here. Month 17. Because the balance is zero, we now have to go find more debt. And in most cases, when I'm talking to people like yourself, it's now what? You got a zero balance in this line of credit. Now here's an opportunity to put that line of credit to work and go generate or build income for you. But she had a specific need. Again, the objective was, I want to remove this burden of this mortgage off my shoulders. And in doing so, that will allow her to now free up even more cash flow. So what I wanted to do is start taking action on the mortgage. So this is where, because the balance is zero, I'm now going to take a $20,000 chunk from this line of credit and put it onto the mortgage. And again, we walked through this scenario on Sunday. When you take that $20,000 and put it on the balance of the mortgage, and that balance at that time might be about $83,000 or whatever that amount is, it knocks the balance of the mortgage down. You recast the mortgage, which means the mortgage payment changes. Notice the mortgage payment prior to this was $1,056, but when we recast the mortgage in this sheet, the mortgage payment changes. It changed to $456 is what that dollar amount ends up being. So the new mortgage payment causes an increase in cash flow. And as a result, now when we pay these bills off, that increase in cash flow is going to allow us to pay off this increased balance even faster. And some might argue, why did I only chunk $20,000? If it's a $40,000 home equity line of credit, why did I only use $20,000? That's a very valid question to ask, because from my perspective, you absolutely could have done 30, 35, 38. But what I wanted to do is build confidence in this process. What I wanted to show is, hey, we don't have to overextend ourselves to be able to eliminate this debt in a very timely fashion. So taking a $20,000 chunk, putting it onto the mortgage, and again, following this process on down till
Wait,
go ahead, sweetheart.
well, I want to stay right there with the why did you choose 20,000 and what does this actually do?
Yep.
Because a lot of people get to this point and now they're trying to interpret or assess, like, okay, I feel like I have confidence here. I've got room on this HELOC. And so what do I want to do? What do I want to do with this leverage? Maybe if I call the bank and I say, I would like to recast, and they say, oh, you only need $10,000 in order to recast, why would you still choose to do 20,000? Because they might think, okay, well, if I've got 40 and I only need 10 to recast, then why wouldn't I use the other funds for something else, or if I need it, but not charge that onto my HELOC essentially, because your mortgage interest rate could be a lot lower than the HELOC, and some people get caught up in that surface math too.
Yep. So notice here the cash flow rather, and it may be kind of hard to see, but the cash flow is also calculated here. You got 4962 that's going in income, and these are your bills. Again, no interest at this moment because the balance on the HELOC is zero. So you've got $2,400 a month in cash flow. What's 2,400 times 12? Well, 2,400 times 12 is 28.8. So what that means is, if I was to take a sum off this line of credit to go pay a bill, what would I personally feel comfortable using? Well, if my cash flow is 28.8, and again, this is 28.8 without recasting the mortgage. I haven't even done that yet. My point is, if my cash flow is 28.8, that means that if I put 20,000 onto this mortgage, I'm sorry, yeah, if I put $20,000 onto the mortgage, which means the balance on the line of credit now has now increased 20,000, how fast would I be able to pay off this 20,000? Well, my cash flow currently states I could pay off 28,000 in 12 months. So if I dump 20 onto this mortgage and the balance on the HELOC goes up, and God forbid something happens, a tornado occurs and now I have to replace a roof, or there's some additional expenses that come about, I haven't overextended myself to a point where I can't get out of this hole. So I am conservative in the amount that I'm using on this line of credit so that I don't place myself in a position to where I become over leveraged and now put myself in a position where I can't recover quickly. So
Right.
in my mind, because my cash flow is 28 grand, I can pay off 20,000 in 10 months. And if I have any other type of emergency, I've got an additional $12,000, or in this case, an additional $20,000 available to me to take care of any emergency possible. So all I'm doing is taking away excuses. Oh, and by the way, I'm retired. Maybe I want to take a trip. Maybe I want to go on a cruise, rather than me having to understand or budget so that I can take action on something that I want to do in my free time. I have room available to be able to do so. And if I take that action, all that means it's going to take me a little bit more time to pay this off, but I've got the cash flow to do it. So does that make sense? Like, as far
Yeah.
as the why?
I mean, we could really unpack
Yeah,
strategies for
absolutely.
being able to do more with less. I mean, that it could be a whole different live stream, because really Evelyn being retired, what she could do is use that credit card to get the points, and she could be traveling for free just
That's it.
based off of her living expenses that she's already going to be paying with her debit card, but now she's getting free points, whatever those perks are towards trips. So prioritizing those types of things, you can do that now. It's not a credit is bad and this credit card is bad, but geez, since I have the debt and I'm it's going to be on there for a while, at least I'm getting these points whenever I do purchase something. So it's kind of like girl math, boy math, whatever kind of math you want to that's trending right now. Now it's a strategy,
That's it.
right? It's
That's
different way of looking at it. Okay, we're at an hour, so I want to make sure that we move into the other part of this.
it.
So
Yeah, man.
where are you at?
And as I mentioned, I would love to be able to dumb this down to 15 minutes, but I can't. So
Yeah,
I got to get
this
the
is
thought
why,
out.
yeah.
I got to get the thought out. So I apologize that we are now over an hour. But my point is, we now made the first chunk. And all we're going to do, again, it's rinse and repeat. We're not doing anything different. The piece that I want to get across to those who are wondering how this sheet works is I am not overcomplicated. I'm not doing anything different than I did in the first month. It is the exact same process. It is rinse and repeat. And this sheet is calculating my cash flow for me. I didn't come up with how much more is available for me to be able to put inside of, or how long it's going to take for me to pay off this line of credit. The cash flow is actually being calculated for me. And
Right.
so as I continue down this path, you will see all of the additional chunks that I'm making, because we had done a $20,000 chunk, $20,000 chunk, and a $40,000 chunk. And again, as I get close to zero, I as I get close to zero inside of this line of credit, I then make an additional chunk and then I rinse and repeat. And when I do that, the notice how the mortgage payment is changing every time I make that chunk, which means my cash flow is increasing as well.
Well, the
Oh,
reason why the mortgage is changing though is because you're recasting.
yes.
Okay, but in order to recast, you do have to qualify. And on top of that, so they're looking at you going, okay, well, what are you giving us if we give you a lower payment and we,
Hold on. Hold on. To recast, if you are dealing with a bank who has your mortgage that allows a recast, you do not have to qualify for that recast. There is some criteria that you have to meet, and
yes,
usually that the rules around how you can meet that criteria to be able to do a recast. It's the dollar amount that you're wanting to dump into your mortgage. Usually, it's $10,000 or more. So
yes,
when you say qualify, it doesn't mean that you have to. They were going to run your credit and make sure your DTI is in great. That's not it. you do have to check a few boxes, and those boxes usually means how much are you wanting to dump into this mortgage. If it's above 10,000, then we can do it. Now, there also may be some rules around you can only do one recast a quarter or
Yes.
one recast a month, or
Right.
so understanding what those rules are matters as well. But as far as you having to, again, you just use the word qualify. I don't want people to think, man, now they're going to run my credit again, or stuff like that. So there are rules that you have to abide by, but it's not it's something that you've already qualified for because you have a mortgage with that bank. And again, assuming this is a bank that does allow recasting. So just wanted to clear that
Yep.
up.
Good notes.
Yep.
Good.
So now, as again, I just want to kind of run down here to the $40,000 chunk. So again, yep. So I was intentionally zeroing out the line of credit. So that's why you show I show the deposit of the income being something less than normal, just so that again it zeroes out. This is not something that you would traditionally do. I just wanted to make sure I showed that, hey, we can absolutely zero out the line of credit and continue to move on. But then when we make that last $40,000 chunk, at this stage is when we've gone from a $99,000 mortgage down to a $5,321 mortgage. We can absolutely have paid off this mortgage right here if we wanted to, but I intentionally did not. And again, and after recasting the mortgage payment ends up being, and here it is right here, the mortgage payment ends up being $37. So I've got $37 left on this mortgage. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to pay that $37 from this point forward. For the next 17 years, I will be paying $37 a month on this mortgage. But my cash flow has now gone from, what was it, $2,400 a month to 28. So I'm approaching $3,000 a month. I have added an additional, what, 14, almost $1,500 to my cash flow. My cash flow is almost doubled in the time frame of us doing this. So again, the objective for Evelyn was to remove the burden of this mortgage. We have just removed the burden of this mortgage. The only thing left to do is pay off the balance on this line of credit. But with almost $3,000 a month in cash flow, paying off this line of credit takes no time. Meaning in a total of 48 months, and yeah, there it is. In a total of 48 months, this line of credit is now paid off. So, well, yep.
We are excited about that.
Are we? Are we though?
Yeah, we're excited. We're getting to the end of all this math and worksheets. It's even in the chat. They're like, can we do this on a Zoom? All these deep dives. Donnell, you're so passionate about this, and we love that for you and everybody else who's benefiting from this, of course. But we the part of how to use the worksheet. Here's the point. Okay, we'll finish what you're doing because I'm gonna drop the point
we're
of
good.
all of this.
We're good. And my point was, I wanted to show how information is input into the sheet and the impact that it has on the other tabs when done. Meaning, if we scroll over here to the visual as to what it looks like when the debt is paid off. Again, every time I made a chunk, it shows. Now we end up running out of room on the sheet, but because when I made a $20,000 chunk here and another 20,000, when you come all the way over to the end, we just ran out of room on the sheet. But the moral of the story is this is where that $40,000 chunk was also made, and then we drove that down to zero as well. So again, this follows exactly what we talked through in the example, and it's all sitting right here in this sheet at your disposal. The key piece is making sure that the inputs that you're putting in are going in correctly. So that's all I wanted to do is cover that in that sheet. So if you want, we can also jump back over to the vibe board, sweetheart.
Oh, okay. Well, here we go. Boop. We're there.
Yep. So if there was a recap you wanted to provide around the sheet, you can go ahead and do that as well. Or we can also jump into this piece. So it's up to you.
Yes. So this is not the order that we were talking about. So therefore, the point of bringing this up, here's the point. The point is, even if you know how to use this worksheet, most people still don't use it. There are people who've been watching us for a long time. They know about the worksheet. They know it exists. They still don't use it. No judgment. I know why, and I get why. And it's important that we talk about why, because if you have a goal and you don't have the actions that say that is your actual goal, then there's a disconnect there, right? There's some dissonance. And what is that all about? So even if it's how do I get started? People jump in feet first. There's something covering the screen and I can't fix that part. So hold on one second. Let's try it. It's not going away. Okay. I'm going to take a picture so I can show you later and I can file a ticket on this. The point is, I can't see what's on the screen, but there's know your goal, grab the worksheet, get your figures together, and then there's the last part, which is take action, right?
Yep,
Can you?
Yep, there we go.
Okay. So then take action, but most people don't. And it's because even though you know how to use the worksheet, even if you understand the velocity banking strategy, there's like this fight, flight, or freeze moment, right? The panic of, holy cow, okay, I think maybe I should plan just a little bit more before I get started. Maybe I should, now that I feel confident that I know this information, but I've never known this information before. And so now I'm second guessing and overthinking maybe I don't know. And I'm going to make a mistake because I've not done these types of things before on my own. And my confidence is less in this strategy because I've seen this strategy work so many times. It's not even our channel. You've seen it work on with other, content and channels doing this type of breakdowns as well. So it's not just us. So what prevents people from getting started and what prevents people from feeling confident in the process? Can you move? It's debt anxiety. It's part of the financial identity. I'll move over here with you.
Right, so I'll come over here.
Yeah. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. And that's not really okay. Well, you move things around. And so now you don't need to have the other picture on there. You put that over there. Let me just move. Okay. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be right back. I'm going to try to refresh and see if this will go away so I can see this.
Okay. So to a point, it's really about what are those items that prevents people from being able to move forward? And a lot of times it is around, hey, this weight that I'm carrying. And what is the root of that weight? That weight that's being carried? Is it self-inflicted? Is it conditioning? Is it warranted even? And a lot of times it's not. A lot of times it has really nothing to do with the math around how to get out of how to eliminate debt. It really has more to do with the weight that we've placed on ourselves. So it's afraid to make a decision in fear that, hey, the step that I take, whether it's identifying a debt tool to be able to drive my income through or taking a step towards velocity banking, hey, is this the right step? Like, am I putting myself in a position to where, you know what? I don't know that I'll qualify for another line of credit. And in addition, it feels like I'm just adding more debt to this situation. How am I using debt to be able to eliminate debt? And again, when we go to a bank and we go to that bank and we ask, hey, how can I put myself in a position to be able to leverage my home a little bit differently in the form of some type of line of credit? The first thing that we're met with from the subject matter experts at the bank is, wait a minute, are you sure you want a line of credit? Because a line of credit is just adding more debt to your situation. Wouldn't it be easier if you just refinanced? Wouldn't it be
Right.
easier if you did a cash out refi? You can, in some cases, reduce your mortgage interest rate now, as of today, depending on where your interest rate is, and you refi, you may actually be jumping in a higher one. But still, they'll spend that. They'll spend that and saying, but your balance is lower. So yeah, your interest rate is higher, but your balance is lower, which means you're still saving money and you can do a cash out refi. Isn't that better than a home equity line of credit? Because the interest rate on this home equity line of credit is 8%. You're telling me you want to get a higher interest rate when you could just refi? And so when you're standing there in that bank and this subject matter expert is telling you you are making the wrong decision, Like now it's even more weight that you're carrying on your shoulders.
It's not a subject matter expert though. They just happen to work at the bank, and so therefore it feels like they qualify to help you make these decisions, when the truth is there are realtors who are renting homes and they do not even own homes. There are people at the bank who do not have their stuff together and they are riddled in debt, and the only way that they can survive is if they sell you products from the bank.
So
It
but
doesn't, there's
you
no
you can't
qualifier
agree
there.
though. But you can agree though. We've been conditioned to believe that these are subject matter
But
experts.
that's
I'm
the
not saying
part.
they
Yeah.
actually are. What
That's
I'm
the,
saying is we've been conditioned to believe that
yes.
when we walk into this bank is going to take care of us. When we walk into this bank, they're going to put our best interest in front of
Right.
their own. And the
Right.
truth behind that, though, is what we learn is all they are doing is correctly selling us products. So
But
when you wrap your head around that they are just selling us products, it allows you to get beyond these fears around what you're doing. Go ahead,
now
sweetheart.
there are people are who understand this, like they enjoy their job and they understand this. This is not everybody. But even if you see somebody like Anthony or Antonio, he's in here in the chat. Antonio is learning these strategies so that he can speak to them. If you come
Right.
in and you're going, "Hey, I want to level up. I'm learning all this stuff on my own." He can continue this conversation with you. That's what's up. But these other people who feel like they don't have to just because they have this title or this name underneath their business card, that is not okay. And for you to feel like, well, I walked in there and they were like, "Where did you learn this? YouTube?" Right?
Right.
Where'd you learn this? If it didn't come from our bank, if we're not saying this is something you should do and you're choosing to bank with us, then we're going to have to just throw down the gate and say you can't access these vehicles in this way for this purpose, because we don't get it. That's really what it is. We don't get it. We don't have to get it because we only understand to the extent of how we profit. That's it. We're not really trying to help you. It's that we have to do what we got to do to keep this business a business, and you don't need to know this part. Don't look behind the curtain. This is why, though, we have to become educated. This is why we get to get educated. That's the part. It's not just that, like from an angry perspective. It's also saying if you are choosing not to educate yourself, if you are choosing not to build confidence and financial confidence, what you're saying though is that you're leaving your future in the hands of someone else who may also be just lacking the same confidence you are. They just have a little handbook that says, here's some things that you can tell people. You just don't know what you don't know. Now you walk in there and you're talking to Anthony Rushing and from First Savings Bank, and you bring up the concept of velocity banking, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I get velocity banking. Matter of fact, we designed our first position HELOCs so that you could use it for velocity banking." That's different, right? But I bet you if you go into your bank and you even mention a first position HELOC, they would go, "Why would you want to do that?" And that is a red flag for you don't get it. You don't
I
get
don't
it.
I don't know that I've ever shared this story on this live, but this exact situation was what it looked like when we got your mom a first position home equity line of credit. I walked into the bank with her. And again, I just politely listened while the banker broke down why she didn't want a home equity line of credit, and she just what she needed to do was refinance. And I let him go on, and I let him go on, and then I got my pen and pad out, and I broke down why she wants something different. And he paused to the point where he went and got his manager, and he went and got his counterpart, and they all came over, and I broke down how a first position home equity line of credit would actually allow her to be able to accomplish her goal faster, to the point where the guy that sold your mom her home equity line of credit at, I think it was Comerica Bank, to be honest, the guy that sold your mom her home equity line of credit, he ended up getting one the following day. So you're right. These are people who were just trained to do whatever this list was the bank is selling for the day, not really understanding the strategy behind the why. And therefore, when you guys are watching a live like this and you're having some of these same issues and concerns, it's arming yourself with the tools so that you can be confident when you walk into a place like this to be able to have that discussion.
Yeah, and it's not to say that these people are out to get you.
Right.
I,
Right.
I like how you phrased it. This is how they've been trained, and this is the boundary of their knowledge on these topics, right? So they can only speak to them in this particular way. Even if they knew of these strategies, they may still be so beholden to this company that they're not allowed to discuss these other types of strategies with you. That could be possible as well. This is why, though, you can't go in there and go get your confidence for somebody who's not tied to your outcome.
But that statement right there though is factual. It's not could be, it's factual. Meaning, because let's look at it. When you get a mortgage, are there closing costs? And can we agree that when you get a mortgage, when you refinance, those closing costs are significant? I don't care how
Yeah.
large the mortgage is, the
Or
closing costs
refinance. Yeah.
right. The closing costs are significant. When you get a first position home equity line of credit, what they are actually doing, it's similar to a recast, whereas they are recalculating.
Right.
Meaning they are grabbing a line of credit, subtracting the mortgage, and then now this line of credit based off simple interest is they're now calculating what that interest would be. The process for receiving a first position home equity line of credit or a second position home equity line of credit versus a mortgage, the administrate matter of fact, it's just administrative costs. There are no closing costs, so therefore they make less money through this process. So if my job is to sell you products and I am graded at my job on how many products I'm able to sell you, why would I sell you a product that I know my company's going to lose money on? I'm going to be downgraded. I won't get that promotion. So I'm absolutely going to push mortgages versus home equity lines of credit. So
But
that's a mathematical fact. Go ahead, sweetheart.
but also I think the majority of people, it's not even that like that aggressive
Right.
or
They don't know what they don't know.
yeah, it's more of in their mind, it's easy to look at the surface math and just go, I get that this exists, but who would want it? So they just write it off. And when we talk about surface math, we're talking about uh, this this interest rate versus this interest rate. Obviously, we're going to pick the lower interest rate, not doing the math all the way through to realize that you actually save yourself money by picking the highest interest rate sometimes. It has not, you can't do the surface math and just look at things that way, but we're taught to do that. So that's why we miss out on opportunities. This is why paying for somebody else to do this for you is not worth it, because then you can't see where those opportunities are. You get an offer in the mail, or you want to jump into real estate investing and you're trying to understand how to free up leverage. Now you're basing your goals off of the limits of somebody else's understanding of a strategy that it's only to reduce debt, right? This is where you cannot just use this here. You can use this concept everywhere. Matter of fact, you can use this concept in your marriage. You could use the concept of leveraging your time and blocking, right? And chunking your time and using it more effectively, using the same dollar twice or the same hour twice, right? Like to be able to achieve your goals. Donnell, when you had mentioned to me before, when I was trying to figure out, like, as we're growing, as we're scaling, as we're getting bigger and busier, we were talking about using the concept of velocity banking with time and tasks. And I was like, I never even thought of using it in that way. But it is helpful when you understand the concept. And then now you can see leverage a little bit different, but also deprogramming kind of some of these ideologies that we have been subscribed to for a long time. And that's the part that I wanted to just talk through. So I'll try to be quick on this. So if Evelyn had been holding and carrying this debt for 40 years, and in the span of 30 to 45 minutes, she now has a plan where she is going to eliminate it all. Almost, she could eliminate it all. Worst case scenario, in 5 years.
Right.
40 years, she would have had this debt for another 40 years. It could last that long. Who cares how long it's going to last? They benefit. They
She had
don't
18
mind.
years left on the mortgage.
18 years left, right? So worst case scenario, she would have crushed it all in less than 5 years. That's the worst case. That's if she messes up 14 times, like 5 years, right? She could do this in under 4. But if she made mistakes and people say, what if I make a mistake? We made mistakes. You probably will.
And I don't even view it as a mistake. What if I had to leverage more of my line of credit than I anticipated because I had an expense? Right? That's
Oh,
not a
yeah.
mistake. It's I used my leverage the way it's supposed to be used to be able to address something. Like, I think you did what you're supposed to do. It's not you did something wrong. It's that you took action using this debt tool. You used it as a tool to attack a debt.
Yeah. And I think you start to see the power of your leverage a little bit differently. And those conversations with the people around you start to change too. If you have people who say, oh, we're just going to put it on the credit card, let's go to Disney every year. And you're going to Disney every year is actually costing me 10 years of my future because of having to pay off all of these trips and all of the stuff and the things that we're prioritizing in our circle here. We can't be a part of this anymore because I want to retire early and I want to retire with enough income that I don't have to trade my time for money or go back to work, right? Or worry where my coverage and care is going to come from. I want options. I want to be able to pivot. That's what I want. If that's true, if that's you and that's true, and you aren't taking the steps currently, you believe it, you know that it's true, you get it, you're awake, you're like, okay, I get it. This is a thing. I wasn't on my radar before, but now it is. But you have not taken a step. There's a reason why. This is not judgment. This is to call out the reason why so that we can move through it into action, right? So if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're waiting for the confidence to kick in, like if I just watch 14 more of live streams, right? If I just binge their channel, I'm going to feel confident. But that could be true. But do you start at the 15th one? Do you start at the 30th one? There's probably well over, no, I know for a fact, because if it's 52 weeks in a year, we live stream twice a week. And we've been doing this for over a year, right? So there's a lot. There's a lot out there. If you would rather stay safe, even if it costs more, because emotionally you're realizing that you're getting capped out, like getting access to this information is kind of making you feel at your max. Like this is a lot. I was already here with the debt, right? And dealing with that. But because debt is so socially accepted, I can talk to other people about feeling stressed about debt. I can call my therapist and talk to them about how I feel about debt. Like they're trained to talk to me and have those conversations with me. If I tell them that I've added something else here called velocity banking, called
Added more debt.
New strategies that they don't understand, now I got to combat everybody and be like, I'm not going to explain it to you because I'm trying to understand it. I can't explain it to you. Just go learn for yourself. You should do this too. Now you're getting into it with people because now you have to start defending yourself. Like all of this is adding this extra stress. So when you're at the Thanksgiving table and people are like, oh, how you been? You're like, you know what? Couldn't be better. My future couldn't be brighter at this point. Oh yeah. Well, why? What's so good? And maybe you're the person who you're in your family, you were not regarded as financially savvy or literate. And now all of a sudden you've got this new strategy and now your family's just like beating you up, right? Like they care nothing for your
Roth
confidence.
IRA. Roth
Yeah.
IRA.
They're like, well, if you had a Roth IRA, and they have no idea because they are just following in line with everything else. And you can see now, maybe you try to convince them. Maybe you realize that that's not even worth the conversation, but you still are just looking. You're peeking out and reaching out in your life for where can I get confirmation that it's okay that I move here. It would be so nice if somebody else that I know, love, and trust would join this journey with me. That may never happen for you. Never. It may never happen for you. You may have to do this alone, which is why our community is so significant. Because there are other people just like you, and some of them are alone in this. Some of them had to just get started. Veronica, her story is so amazing. She did it even though her husband was not on board. He was like, this sounds dumb. I'm not into it. I'm not going to watch. No, it's like not, I don't want to do it. And she's like, please, will you watch? Like, I really want you to watch this information. Like, I'm soaking it up. We could look where we could be if you would just get on board, right? And he's like, oh, well, love that for future us, but not going to happen right now. Okay. Maybe later. And she just stayed the course and kept showing up and kept learning. And eventually he was like, for what was it, your anniversary or something, Veronica? Oh, he's listening right now. I love this. It was some special event, and he knew that he could get her a gift, right? He could go out and buy her something. He could go out and put flowers. He could do the traditional thing, but he knew the most important thing that he could do, the gift for her, was to finally say, I'm ready. I'm going to tune in. I'm going to do this with you, and I'm going to start learning so we can level up. Did you guys just get goosebumps? Because I did. That is so meaningful. But that's doing the work. Would he have gotten there if she would have just said, well, I can't because he won't do it with me. And in order for this to be effective, like, he has to do it with me and he has to be on board. So I'll just wait until then. She pushed and she pulled and she just continued going because she knew this was not negotiable. This was not an option. And it was just a matter of time until he joined her. But that her job in this process was just to keep showing up. And as a result, now you could probably ask her so many questions about anything and she could probably answer all of them because she's just been learning and doing. It's amazing to see these transformations happen, not just with people, but with families and households in general. Zaid, his kids are tuning in. You've got Scott and his kids and his family, and they've all got boats now. And you see these transformations happening. You know it's a ripple effect because you know it's once somebody sees it, it's hard not to talk about it and want to talk about it. And maybe others won't understand. That's okay. Maybe that was just a seed. Maybe you planted a seed, but for you to feel confident about what it is that you're doing, you cannot rely on the approval of the people around you and external validation. Learn to support you or to help you. You have to know that it is enough that if you are doing this completely by yourself, that you can learn this. You can learn this. And you should learn this. And then we each one teach one. So staying safe is saying, I can't learn this, right? Because it makes me feel uncomfortable. So even if it costs me more, I'm going to stay where I am and I'm going to keep putting money in my savings account because it makes me feel good. It's not going to make you feel good when your future you is going to be really upset with that decision later when you realize it's not enough. And then the internal war of knowing that time is the most valuable. And that's really that future you conversation. Some of us are reading this book. It was shared with us by somebody that we met at an event, Be Your Future Self Now. And I've loved this. Just the concept of thinking about where you want to be, the version of you in the future, and then start taking action today to be able to achieve that so that your future self will thank you. Best exercise to do is think back 10 years from now. What financial decisions would you have made differently to be at a different place today? Time being the most valuable, you can't go back and get that time, right? But you can see now where different decisions would have had a different output. Well, touche for the future you in the next 10 years. You want to move on?
So we kind of talked through the remaining steps of knowing your goal. Once you grabbed your worksheet, knowing your numbers, and then taking that action. But I think the last piece here was this.
Yeah. So if this is you, if you feel like in regards to financial freedom, you have the desire to eliminate debt and achieve financial stability, you have a goal to increase your monthly cash flow and or more flexibility, financial flexibility. If you're looking for financial confidence, the wish to understand and implement effective financial strategies, and need for education on financial tools and methods, if you look for things to be simplified, like, I just don't want it to feel hard, right? Sometimes we're the ones that are overcomplicating it. Like, I'm famous in my household for overthinking some stuff,
You
which is
are.
why the kids wouldn't ask me for help on their math homework. They would wait until you got home. This is just because of our relationship with the information sometimes too, right? Like I would start to have anxiety around math and I would be like, okay, listen, I get it. You're anxious about math. And they're like, should I be anxious about math? Like I taught them maybe I should be anxious about math because actually I wasn't until you started acting like it was a big deal, right? And then I didn't see that at the time. I didn't see that at the time. I'm like, let me fix it for you. I'll make it easy the way that I understand it. And I didn't realize how much I had imprinted on them either, that version of
No crying
myself.
in math. There's no crying in math.
I was crying. I was crying to the point where I was like, you know what? I already passed this grade. It's your turn.
That's to be you.
Your turn. Sorry. Okay. And also just wait for your dad to get home. Okay. Consistency and predictability. Need for consistent and predictable debt payments. Now, this part is true. When you understand this, then you can start to go, you know what? I can do that. Or you know what? I actually don't want to do that because right now I'm feeling like I understand things the way that it is. I'm achieving my goal. I can see that line going down, right? I've got it all planned out. Most of us, though, do not have that. We don't know what we're spending money on. For a lot of people, I would say 95% of people who grab this worksheet and book a call, this was their first time of ever really putting their finances together and being able to see it. And for a lot of people, that is uncomfortable. Then you got to show somebody else this stuff. And that's not the part. We don't want to see your financial profile. That's not the part. We're not like, oh, really? Really, Janice? Nails, you're spending how much on getting your feet done every year? Like you just labeled it self-care. Well, what are we doing in self-care? Like, we're not doing that. I just want you to know that. That is not the point, right? It's not the point. But some people do, I think, fear discussing this. So the cash flow is really the most important part. Then you go back. You go back and address what you're spending your money on. But the majority of people just do, they don't know what you don't know. And until you put it all together and you can see it, it's likely you're going to be shocked at your own spending.
What usually comes out during this exercise is some of that conditioning starts to ooze out. Because you're right. Because traditionally in our household, we're not used to talking about what finances are, how much I make, what we're spending on bills. Doing it with a stranger doesn't make it any easier. Or filling out a sheet that identifies, you know what, I am spending a little bit more on streaming services than I thought. I mean, it starts to bring out a lot of these pieces that when you really peel the layers back, it is absolutely conditioned. We've been conditioned to think this way and feel this way. And when we are able to, one, see it, understand why it's there, understand how to take action, it allows us to remove that weight.
Yeah. Zaid says, my wife and I are tag teaming the hell out of these strategies thanks to you both. Man, and they're teaching their girls, their kids. They also have a boy there too. They're teaching their kids.
She's gonna leave the boy out. Like,
I'm not anymore. My bad, bro. That's on me. But they're teaching their kids the same strategy, so now they'll be able to get started sooner, which is where our oldest, he was like on board to learn. Not all of them were, right? So we have to like get everybody on board, and we understand that's a process. It's different for everybody. Also, we didn't have this when they were younger. So
right.
now we have to realize that we're part of the problem in programming them and supporting them to believe certain things about money and their relationship with money. So now we have to go deprogram them. Like it's work. It's hard work, but it's worth it. And we know that it's non-negotiable. That's the part, is that it's not negotiable for us to do this work. It's not negotiable for us to be out here teaching other people these strategies, because everybody needs to have this information. Where we're going where our nation is going just in general, you're going to have to need leverage. You're going to have to need control. You're going to have to understand where you can pivot, when you can pivot. We cannot be at the mercy of others to make decisions for us, especially when the people who are making these decisions have no idea what it would feel like to be in the position that 78% of America is in, living paycheck to paycheck and hoping that somebody would have their back. And the truth is, all the promises, all the American dreams, all of those things were all built in a generation that made sure those promises were for that generation, right? They have not trickled down very far from them. So we can't guarantee that they will last moving forward. Not to mention though, it's just doesn't matter because it's a completely different profile that we're in. Housing costs back then in the 70s were, to buy a house, it was 2 times the annual salary in the nation, right? Right now we're at 4.7. 4.7. If we are talking about debt to income ratios, if we're talking about standard rate of inflation, that's not 4.7 times the annual salary, right? Like that's crazy. Imagine what it would be like in another 50 years. That's why we have to help these next generations coming in. So for some of them, it's buying a house now. Can you imagine if somebody would have bought you a house when you were 7? Just go back like 20 years, 30 years. Somebody would have bought you a house 30 years ago and before you needed a house, right? So when you did want to buy the house, housing prices are way up here, but your house was purchased way down here. It's how we're going to level up. So if consistency and predictability is what you're looking for, if you are not wanting to be sideswiped by some information or some conditions, what? You can't hear me? Well, they can still hear you, so you can use your words. He can't hear that. Okay. All right. So let's okay, he's going to refresh. So staying focused is the other part. If seeking inspiration from success stories is helpful to you, sweet. Stay focused. Keep it fresh and top of mind. If motivation to take actionable steps towards financial freedom is what you need, you're here. We have a community to help you do that. But the most important part is that you are here and that you are doing the work and that you have belief that you can learn this. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Okay, so that was that part. Okay, help me with this because we always talk about this. It's okay, you can bring that up.
Yep.
What is it for those who have gotten started? What was that moment that the door opened and you were like, I can take the first step in this room? Everybody's different. Some are motivated by pain and some are motivated by reward, right? But what was it for you so that other people who are just learning about this information, that they can maybe hear some stories of others who were in that same position as them? What helped you take your first step? Because this wasn't a step somebody else did for you. They did not call your bank. They did not log in for you. They did not gather your finances for you. They didn't go apply for a HELOC for you. None of those things, those are steps you had to take. So what was the moment that you were like, okay, I'm going to pick up the phone or I'm going to go online. I'm going to do the things that are required. What helped you do that? What helped you cross over into that? So that's one. The second thing is, how long had you been thinking about learning or trying to figure out a different way? Like, how long did you sit there on the fence of, do I just accept things are the way that they are, or do I get out there and take control and start at least educating myself on what options are available? Like, how long were you on the fence for? Here's why I'm saying this. I think when we're talking to the people around us who also are probably on the fence, or they feel very confident, like overly confident in their 401k at work or whatever system that they're using, right, to secure their future financially. And maybe your profile doesn't look like that. And so you're tiptoeing in those conversations. And if you could think back and you could just kind of, if somebody were to be doing a documentary and they were to be going through like, what are those scenes for you that were the ones that stick out the most during this time period? Because it's emotional, right? It's like not just financial, but it's also emotional. Like, how many live streams did you watch before you even jumped in the chat to be like, okay, I'm on this journey. I'm declaring it by jumping in the chat, right? I'm like declaring it by joining the Facebook group. I'm declaring it by now velocity banking and becoming self-directed, and learning these concepts is now going to become a part of my financial identity. I'm not just going to treat money like whatever, as long as I'm still here today and I can be here in a month from now and pay those bills, like I'm good. Now you're taking control and working through that. How long were you at that stage? And so we can help others by sharing our stories, and at least to keep people encouraged that it's possible. Sometimes they just need to see that something's possible. And hopefully that's what we do here on this channel, right?
On that note, I was in a room about, I think maybe 15 people in a room, and there was a gentleman standing up in front of the room walking through how he had pulled out of his suit jacket pocket a stack of credit cards about yay thick. And he was walking through how he leverages these cards to be able to pay bills and do other things. And it kind of the dialogue ended in him walking through velocity banking. And I remember this day very, very well because I was sitting in the front row and I kept saying to myself, you can't do this. Like, there's no way you can get multiple uses out of the same dollar. Like, again, I'm a math guy. So you can't put numbers on a whiteboard and me not pick them apart. And so there's like 15, 20 people in the room, but I'm the only one asking questions. And I'm picking apart every number that he's putting on the whiteboard. And as I'm picking apart the numbers, I'm answering my own questions because you know what? You absolutely can do what he's saying that you can do. And it kind of, the root of it was this: without making any more money, without going out and getting an extra job or a part-time job or driving Uber, taking the money that you have and being able to take that same money that you're making and eliminate and reduce debt over time can absolutely be done if you just simply adjust how you've been doing things.
Same
And
money.
same money, not anything extra. And that alone, it was a game changer for me because it sent me down this rabbit hole of, well, what else have I been assuming that I understood and that I actually don't, which drove us to understanding what a mortgage actually is and how it works. So it was a snowball that just kept kind of rolling down this hill. So I appreciate that because you're right. It's understanding the stories of other people that also gives us the confidence to be able to say, you know what, I can do this.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't learn it from my dad or my mom has no clue or my circle of friends think I'm crazy, there are absolutely people out here accomplishing the exact same thing that I'm trying to do. And it's okay that my circle doesn't understand it.
Right. Well, on that note, because I think who your circle is, what your circle does, it could be your family, it could be your spouse, it could be just your siblings, right? It could be anybody who's in your circle of influence. Like they say that we're the average of the top 5 people that we hang out with. But I was realizing as I was kind of looking in the chat of all these shares, which are completely beautiful, everyone sharing what was like their moment, right? What was going on, those questions that I was just asking. And now they're sharing in the chat, which please take a look at this so you can see, like, is this you? Do you identify with some of these? Or share yours in the comments. Please do it. This conversation starter pack we made for getting your spouse on board or getting somebody in your life on board, right? Like, how do we have these conversations? We get this question a lot. Like, how do I have this conversation with somebody who's like not with it? That was me. I thought he was crazy. I was like, what is happening to you right now? Why would you do that? We want to get more debt, more credit cards. Like, do the math. I'm not the math person, but I'm just going to throw it out here. Maybe we need to have a conversation. Like, I don't know what you're on. This does not make sense to me. And I was getting afraid because I thought, holy cow, if he messes up and we're now in a really bad situation, and it's partly because I don't want to do the math to prove him wrong because of my relationship with money and math at the time, right? And I was like, but just on the surface, and that's where we get the term surface math, just on the surface, this doesn't make sense to me. And for that reason, I'm out, right? That was me. So we had to have these conversations, and it didn't look like this. It wasn't as organized. We didn't have all these tools at the time. It was a very lengthy process of years and very trying on our relationship as well. It also brought us closer together. So we do have a live stream where we're talking through that process. The point is, you can also use this for yourself because it's really a conversation that you got to have with yourself. And you can, let me take this banner down. You can go here, selfdirected.info /live, and there'll be a button that you press, and then you go there, tell us where to send it, and then we just send you the document, and you can print it out yourself and cut it up into these little cards if you want. But these conversations will start to jog things like, well, dang, you know what? I didn't think about that. I don't have an answer for that, and I don't want to come up with an answer because it's making me really uncomfortable. Come up with an answer. And if you can't do it yourself, don't ask somebody else to do it if you're not willing to do it yourself. So having this conversation with yourself is also important so that you can start to identify your goals. Because if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. We say that all the time. We hope this is a useful tool. This doesn't mean that we're some experts. We're just sharing our journey, things that have worked for us, tools we picked up along the way, and that we hope will help others. So on that note, let me go back to the vibe board. What's the goal?
And
you don't know where you're going. Any road will take you there. We got to know.
And that's the summary of all of this. It is identifying what the objective is, what is the point. And when you start out with what's the goal, and again, even if what you think your goal is today, tomorrow it might look different. That's okay. We have to start somewhere. It's understanding, identifying what that goal is, and then let's peel the layers back. Why is this the goal? What do you accomplish when you hit that goal? Like, what are the next steps beyond that goal so that we can actually get to the root? Identify what the true opportunity is that we're wanting to overcome so that we can actually achieve what the pinnacle is as it relates to your goal. Again, meaning, is that generational wealth? Is it firing your job? Is it putting yourself in a position so that you can retire early? Like, regardless what it is, it's being able to sit down and actually, and what I love about this sheet is it's also applying a number to it. Like, what is the math around that goal? It's not just, hey, I want to pay off debt. It's, I want to eliminate $150,000 of debt. Or, I don't want to just retire early. I want to be able to retire with $60,000 tax-free income for the rest of my life. And then let's kind of work backwards to understand what are the steps we need to take to be able to do that. So, everything all right, sweetheart?
Yeah, I'm grabbing and knowing where you're going is key. We talk about how to keep that in the forefront of your mind so that you don't forget. It doesn't just become, well, I forgot that making my goals important was important. So I got caught up in like the regular habits that I had, and it's hard to form new habits, right? It's hard to like get yourself out of the routine. And it doesn't matter. You could have $1 million in net worth and still be making mistakes that will cost you your future financially. You could still end up broke. You could be completely debt free and think none of this applies to me because I don't have any debt. You can be debt free and broke at the same time. Every newborn is born debt free. It's facts. There's a ton of people who are homeless and debt free, and does not make them somehow walking around going, but you know what? I got this badge that says I'm debt free. Like, it doesn't. My point is that there's no judgment here. The point is that we have to do better, and we have to stop with the false confidence of what is in an IRA or what is in your 401k or what is currently in the market or what is sitting in your home. even the equity you think that maybe one day you can cash out on the equity in your home, maybe downsizing was a part of your plan in the future. Like, of course, yeah, well, then we'll just downsize. But you're buying that house at that time in that same market. So are you really winning here? If you're downsizing into a house you bought 40 years ago and you've been renting it and it's free, right? Like you're not having to pay those prices, then hey, good on you. But the point is most people have not planned forward, and it's because the bar is so low in having these conversations out here, even with your financial advisor. The bar is so low. They ask them how much income you will have when you go to retire. How much? If you can't answer that question, then we got some work to do, and that's okay because we are here doing the work. Every Sunday and every Wednesday, we're here doing that work to be able to decide so that you'll know for sure what this number is going to be. How much do you need to retire? How much do you need to be financially free? How much do you need to be financially stable, have financial peace, be financially flexible, feel in control, knowing that there's nobody else who can make decisions that is going to impact you, that because you don't have decisions, you do not have the power to create new options for yourself.
Now, today's example was related to Evelyn, who is already retired. So she had some specific measures, some specific goals that she wanted to hit. But does this, I think I just happened to see a question asking, does this only apply to those who have a mortgage? And it's not about that at all. It's about what's the goal. And it caused me to think about a gentleman that I was talking to last night, 23 years of age. He's headed down this real estate investing journey, and he's looking for ways to not just put himself in a position where he can retire early, but he's also looking to be able to help other people. So he's on a awesome path at 23 years of age. He obviously maybe can't qualify for a home, but definitely doesn't have a mortgage. So how does this kind of stuff, how does this information apply to him? Well, it's about where is your leverage? Identifying where your leverage is located. Maybe at this stage in your life, your leverage is simply related to your credit worthiness. Can you qualify for some type of line of credit, like a personal line of credit or just a credit card? And how do you put that leverage to work for you so you can get multiple uses out of the same dollar? But why? What's the goal? If the goal is to retire early, notice there's not a credit card in this world that can help you retire early. Getting a personal line of credit does not help you retire early. So understanding what the goal is, now let's work backwards to understand what are those actions that you need to take to be able to actually retire early. Because there's not a whole lot of vehicles out there. Maybe it is real estate. So, okay, how can you use your credit worthiness today to put you in a position such that you can now accomplish this goal of building your real estate portfolio so that you can retire early? So, does this information only apply to those who have a mortgage? Absolutely not. It's just that this specific example was applying to Evelyn, who happens to her leverage is located in this home that she's been spending the last 40 years trying to pay off. How about we leverage this home the way the bank has been leveraging her over the last 40 years so that she can accomplish her goals? For those of us who don't have a home, it's where is your leverage? Let's identify where your leverage is located so that we can now put you in a position to where it can start working for you. And maybe your leverage might be in your previous employer's retirement account.
That
Maybe
part.
there's an opportunity to be able to move that previous employer's retirement account into another position so that you can then borrow against it so you can put yourself in a position so you can go generate more income. Like there's an unlimited list of identifying kind of what those pieces are to this equation, but it's also specific to you. Meaning, where is your leverage located, and how can we put you in a proper position so you can take advantage of leveraging that situation.
Yeah. One thing we didn't do was just get in here and get this workbook. If you haven't gotten it, go to selfdirected.info/live. That's where you can get it. Put this up. Oh, no. Nope. Here we go. That's where you can get it. And there's some questions here. So we want to jump to the questions, and then we'll give away the kit. So Mark, that is the point that I wanted to make, was we didn't have a mortgage when we started.
Right. Couldn't
We
qualify. How
didn't.
about no? We didn't. It wasn't that we didn't have one. We couldn't qualify for one.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So and if you're new here, that's our story. Is we came from not even being able to qualify for a mortgage to becoming our own bank, and we did that in a matter of 5 years or less. And these are things that people have known about for a long time. None of this is new. That's what's crazy, is that we just didn't have access to this information. So we're out here being the change we wish to see by sharing this information so that other families can also be changed and level up as well. So Roger says, I would like to download this into Excel without messing up the formulas. Is that doable? Roger, if you are an Excel person, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not an expert at this. What I did was I knew that there was a tool that needed to exist to help people so that they weren't being sold something that was thousands of dollars for access to basically something that does something very similar, but it doesn't teach you how to do it. You're not actually having to learn. It's saying it's autopilot, it's auto generating for you, which is great. How easy is that, right? But the problem is you don't know if it's even doing a good job because you're not learning the strategy, right? You're not understanding how to improve your financial profile because you're only allowing something to do it for you. And we don't believe that is the best way. We believe the best way is for you to learn it. Now, if you go in and deploy and leverage other tools on top of that to just simplify the process for you, sweet. But at least be able to understand if something is doing a good job or how you can improve based off of opportunities that would be outside of a software, right?
I've met with a few different people who have taken the sheet and moved it into Excel fairly effectively. I think the challenge would be in the debts sheet when you go over to the far right. That the formulas that build the graph, sometimes those get a little wonky. But as far as your ability to be able to populate the sheet in Excel, I have worked with several people who have done it. This is one of those things where we all have lanes. I think she did an amazing job putting this sheet together, but she's also a Google Sheets pro, right? I mean that's the vehicle
No,
that you've
I'm
been
not a
using,
pro, but
but it's the vehicle that
that's
you've
my
been using.
preference. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think there you absolutely can take this information and run it through Excel. And I would say if you feel up to it, I think it would be something that some in our audience could use as well. So if you are able to effectively do it, share it. Share it out in the Facebook group, and because I'm sure there's others who would want to be able to use Excel as well. So
Yep, I agree. And there's nothing wrong with that. Or if this messes up, then at least you have a reference to what it was doing or what it was calculating if you need to make those changes. The original version will always exist, or the updated version will always exist somewhere where you can go back and double check to like update your sheet if you didn't get the update, right? There's just like no perfect, other than creating an actual software, there's no perfect way of doing this unless there is. And I don't know what I don't know, right? Which is completely fine. The point was that we needed to just get something started,
yeah.
so that's what we started using, and that's what we started using for other people to be able to get the help. Okay, Ty says, how might this worksheet change if it's a variable interest rate on the HELOC or first position HELOC?
Yep,
Great
I
question,
love it
Ty. Yeah.
because in this example, it is a variable interest rate home equity line of credit, and I did not adjust the interest rate in the sheet. But let's say you needed to. Again, if we were going month by month, and you learned, because again, I'm assuming when you pay bills, you go into your online account and you pay bills from your online account, so you will notice a change in your interest rate. If that happens, then you just move over to the sheet, adjust the interest rate in the sheet, and it will calculate the interest based off that change. So I think the sheet. My point is the sheet is designed to be able to compensate for that as well, but it would require you actively changing that interest rate to what the new interest rate would be.
Yep. Okay. Tabitha says, even if no recast option with a mortgage, can she still accomplish this just with knowing that it'll take longer because the cash flow doesn't increase without the recast? Would you do anything different? That's such a great question.
And you're spot on. Now, if I'm in Evelyn's situation, what was Evelyn's goal? Her goal was to get this weight of this mortgage off her shoulder. So if that's the goal, if that's the objective, would I still be able to accomplish that objective by dumping in these sums and not having the increase in cash flow to allow me to pay them off faster? Yes. And it just means that it's going to take me longer to do it. Now, if you're asking me if this is something that I would have personally done, I would not. I would not have approached this in this fashion, but this was her goal. Her goal is to get this weight off her shoulders. And could she have done, like, let's say she had a VA loan, and in most cases, VA loans are not allowed to be recast. So she would have dumped that $20,000 onto the principal. It would not have changed the monthly payment, but the balance on the mortgage would have changed. It would have still dropped down to 60 something thousand or whatever. And every time she put a 20,000 on, it would have still been addressed. It just means that, hey, it would have taken her a little bit longer to pay this mortgage off. And again, if that's the goal, then there's no harm in that at all.
Okay, be chill. I'ma be. What is the downfall of doing a recast? Interest, fees, you tell me.
Yeah. So, okay, let's first step through a recast. A recast is simply a recalculation from the bank's perspective. They are recalculating your mortgage at the same current place that it's in on the amortization schedule. So, what happens when your mortgage gets recalculated? Well, a mortgage is an amortized it's an amortized loan, which means the majority of the interest is in the first few years, or the first half, I'll say, first half of that mortgage. You're traditionally paying more interest than you would be if you were in the latter years of your mortgage. So when you recast, you are starting that amortization schedule all over again, which means that the interest is now pushed to the start, pushed early on. So you're paying more interest up front. And so, from the bank's perspective, they love a recast because they believe they are now going to make more money, because they're now able to charge you more interest than they were based off where you currently were in the amortization schedule originally. But what they don't realize is, again, if your goal is to pay off the mortgage, what they don't realize is this chunk that you just made, there's another one coming behind it pretty quickly, which means you're going to recalculate it again. And even though the recast is being recalculated and the interest is being pulled up front, because you're paying this mortgage off efficiently and very, very fast, it doesn't matter, because you'll still end up paying less interest over time. So I wouldn't necessarily I'll call it a downfall, but it's being conscious of the fact that when you recast, that distribution of interest versus principal also readjusts, which means more interest is being paid up front in that new mortgage payment. So again, it's understanding what's happening. That doesn't mean don't do it. It means, hey, I understand that this is going to take place. But the reason this doesn't matter is because the math says I'll still pay it off in Evelyn's case, 48 months anyway, versus the 17 or the 18 months that I was on, or not 18 months, the 17 or the 18 years that I was originally on pace for. So I'll take those 48 months and that recalculation of that amortization schedule and that interest being pulled up front all day long. If I can pay a $37 a month mortgage payment and over the next 17 years, I still have access to all of my equity. So I think that's, and now fees wise, because this is a recalculation and not a refinance, in most cases, it is somewhere between zero, and I think I've seen the most being somewhere around $2,500. And to me, 2,500 is high. To do our first position home equity line of credit, I think in total it was like $500 is what the cost was overall. So it is not the traditional closing fees that you would see when you are getting a brand new mortgage. So
Right, like
again,
6%, 3%, whatever yeah.
right. And the key piece there is because to the bank, all we're doing is recalculating. So this is an administrative task. So the cost is whatever the cost was to take this administrative task, not I need to pull all of these documents and do an actual closing on this mortgage. So that's not happening.
Yeah. Okay, we have the last question, and then we're gonna give away the boat. We had in the very beginning, Donald Dix was in here, and he was saying, "Hey, by the way," he was like, "Record, did anybody get an invitation from an unknown
I
sender?"
think I saw it. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Then about this webinar and this Curtis Ray guy, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what are we talking about here?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
No, leave it
and
up.
then hold on.
Oh, there's another one. Okay.
Yeah. And then also, by the way, is
It's
this
Curtis
guy a
Ray
part
part
of
of your
your
team?
team? Like
Love it. Love it.
like who is he? Yeah. So here's before we get into the answer for this, because
Mm-hmm.
I love that you asked this question, by the way, because you're probably not the only one asking this question.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why we double down, the reason why increasing your cash flow is so important, the reason why crushing your debt so that you have more cash flow to work with is not so that you have more cash flow. That's not the point. If your income is tied to your money, trading your time for money to produce that income, then your cash flow is only as valuable as what you do with it, right? Once that stops, then what?
Right. Then what?
Once that stops, then what? And it's not even a matter of once that stops, it's when, right? When that stops. We can't work forever. And I don't think the majority of us, if we had the choice to, we would want to work until we pass on. That's not the goal. For most people, they may have adopted it at the goal, thinking they didn't have any other options, but we personally know, because this is our story, that there are other options. You can retire early, even if you weren't set to retire early in the beginning. You can make that a goal, you can make that non-negotiable, and you can set a date. I am going to achieve this. This is going to become non-negotiable for me. One of those things in the strategy, let me go back here. We'll answer it this way. One of those things is here. This is what our machine looks like. And Donnell, the point I'm bringing this up is, where does this come in from? Why don't we always talk about MPI? This isn't, there are many ways to 10. This is part of our equation for us to reach 10. For other people, it may be a different thing. However, we have found the most effective ways to get there the fastest way. And so that's why velocity banking is a strategy. Infinite banking is a strategy. What we do with our self-directed accounts are strategies applied to vehicles. First position HELOC is a thing, but why have one if you're not deploying a strategy with it, right?
That's it.
And MPI is also a strategy. So Curtis Ray is the founder of that MPI strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So is he on our team? He's not on our team, but he is a part of that strategy that we talk about. Yeah.
But I love what you said earlier, because why is MPI even a part of the equation? And I think when you mention the words retire early, let's say you have a goal to retire early. Let's everyone do this exercise together. List the actions you can take where you are today to be able to put yourself in a position to retire early. And what do I mean when I say retire early? Let's call it by the age of 50. Like, let's say if you're over 50, go back and let's talk about your previous opportunity. If your goal was to be able to retire at 50, list all of the different actions you could take to be able to do that. Because the list is not infinite. It's a pretty short list. Either you're investing in real estate, or you're some type of day trader, crypto, you're doing something in addition to your normal stuff, right? But it's related to the market. Or there's an opportunity to properly structure a cash value life insurance policy to put yourself in a position to where it can either supplement and or replace your income. There are not many vehicles out there. These three, again, there may be others aside from these three, but these are the three that I'm aware of. And so, where MPI fits in our equation is our objective, our goal is to put ourselves in a position to where we do not have to worry about being 59 and a half or 65 or required minimum distributions. I am not looking for anyone to be able to tell me when I can or cannot retire. So, the objective was, what are those vehicles out there that can help us do it? And that's where the strategy comes into play. And you're right, Curtis just happens to be the creator of the strategy. But let's peel that back. MPI is not new. MPI is a strategy based off what? Premium financing. Premium financing is a strategy that started in 1997. Why don't you know about this strategy that started in 1997 that could put you in a position to be able to retire early? Why don't you know about it?
Right.
Well, in order to have a premium finance strategy, you need at least $5 million in net worth. So, how many people on this live have at least the $5 million in net worth? Probably not a lot. And so, what Curtis was able to do, however he was able to do it, this strategy was implemented that falls in line with premium financing without the need of having $5 million in net worth. Why don't you know about it? Why don't more people know about it? And so that webinar that you're referencing, every month, I think he pulls together a webinar to just kind of walk through those of us who have an MPI strategy applied to their properly structured cash value life insurance policy. He walks through what those looks like. And it just happens to coincide with our live, kind of just is what it is. So the text message you were getting was, hey, if you're not busy, if you're not hanging out with us, then maybe there's an opportunity for you to jump over there, because it does coincide every month or every other month or whenever it is. It does coincide with our lives. So that's why you're receiving it. So does it work for us? Absolutely not. But I go back to the reason MPI is a strategy applied to our system, our machine, is because of the ones that you see up here, which ones will allow you to be able to retire early. Now, real estate is absolutely one of them. We are huge fans of investing in real estate, but real estate is also an active approach. We like passive approaches. So, in addition to the passive income that you're able to generate in real estate as well, we like the fact that you can also passively put yourself in a position to be able to retire early using a properly structured cash value life insurance policy. So, and it's been several months since I think we've walked down the path of even what that looks like. So we're probably trending down the path of being able to bring that back up again as well. So hopefully that answers.
Yeah, because it's not, again, many ways to 10, but and
Yeah.
there are, we don't want to silo into only one. However, if you are trying to learn about one, how do you do that if we're hopping and skipping around? So we're trying to figure out the best way possible to deliver that information. But in the meantime, there's other people who are educating about, some of this if that's their particular lane. So if they work for a bank who offers a first position HELOC, they might be talking about that. And so we'll go ahead and pull them in. If they are, we don't bring people on talking about infinite banking because most of them aren't using it like we would use it. So, okay, let's just move on. The point is, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. And it can't be that we've just decided that my thing is the best thing, right? Some of these people, yeah, some of the people who created these strategies, they will say my way is the best way that you can get to 10 with only this one, right? You can get to 10 with, this is a full 10. That's all you need. And it may just be that they don't know what they don't know. And that's okay. It may just be that it doesn't fit your profile. You don't have that tool. You don't have that number in your equation for it to add up to 10. That may be the case. This is why it's so important to learn, so that you understand the decisions and the what you're exposed to in terms of opportunities. And I've been saying this over and over again, but I hope what you see after you start to learn is how many opportunities you couldn't identify before and you start to now. That's kind of the, like, if I were to wave a magic wand, poof, and then you see it and you go, wow, holy cow, now I want to be able to take, first you could just see the opportunities, and then you go, I want to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. So how do I get in position to be able to do that? And structure matters the most to us.
That's
Getting
it.
educated, being confident, and being properly structured. Those are the three parts that will give you the most confidence and allow you the most amount of freedom. So that's why we use what we use, and that's why these things matter to us.
And before we leave this, I know this isn't a question, but I think this is a perfect segue to where we're headed with this boat as well. And that is, if we're going to talk, what I shared was, this is a means or a vehicle that can assist in being able to put you in a position to be able to retire early. But what does retirement even mean? Because do I mean that we're going to be on some boat somewhere on some island somewhere doing nothing? Does that mean I will no longer work or be looking to be able to do what we're doing here, and that is assist people, fulfilling a purpose? Absolutely not. For me, Retirement is really what this shirt is about. And it's about you being able to achieve your WTF moment, meaning put yourself in a position to where you can generate the wealth so that you can have control over your time and put yourself in a position to have true freedom, which means to do what you want to do when you want to do it, to whoever it is. To me, that is not there's not a number applied to that. That's really about more a mindset and making sure you're taking advantage of all of the leverageable vehicles you have available for you to be able to achieve your WTF moment. And that is different for everyone. It may include a lot of the vehicles that we're talking about right here, but it also may not. It may be a totally different list because there are many ways to 10. So really to me, retirement for me is about achieving that WTF moment.
Yeah, that's right. And I like what Piki said here, and I think it's resonating with everybody in the chat too. I see retirement as achieving the point of control to direct one's life through self-choice rather than necessity and obligation to direct oneself in another's direction for survival.
That's it.
So
Control.
that's right. So you can work the way you want to, like if you want to, and free from the shackles of necessity. The reason why we give away the boat is because, well, let me go back. The reason why we give away the boat is because it's tied to a very empowering story. This isn't the only story, though. There are tons of people like this. And the more I read, the more books I'm exposed to, the more I learn that for this team, it was a boat. For somebody else, it was a mountain or whatever it was, right? It was their thing that resonated with them. So it may not be a boat for you, but after this, it could be. It could just start with the boat that we give away. People say, what is this thing? What is this thing that you guys are giving away? Why? This is dumb. When you understand the meaning of it, it becomes extremely valuable, right? The idea of so that you can work the way you want to, what does that mean? It's not necessarily just about freedom. For some people, they can't yet assign themselves that they actually could have true freedom. They're okay with working longer. They're okay with stretching this out because it might be an option for them. But what if the belief flipped and you believe that you could actually achieve this now that you see that other people have done it? Now you say, okay, I can belong to that group. This was for this particular team, the Olympic rowing team in Britain, 1997. They sucked so bad. And we're going to share that story because you just can't hear it enough. But focus on the fact that they were so terrible. Everybody was making fun of them every year. Like, why are you guys even showing up every time? Like, oh, here they come again to lose. We got to lose to somebody. Somebody's got to be last. You know, if there's going to be 16 seats, we got to have somebody be 16 every year. So at least thanks for showing up and being number 16. Like, they were so terrible that people were just like, yeah, okay, well, they're technically here, but really nobody cares. They were so tired of people talking about them that way. This is a real story. They got so tired of training and being at the top enough to qualify for the Olympics, right? Like that didn't even matter because they were just the losers of the Olympics for years, like decades. They just sucked every time. So what was the point of continuing to go if they were not going to get better, right? You don't get what a plastic medal. You don't get a plastic medal. You don't get a clear plastic medal for being 16th in the Olympics. You get nothing. You get shame. You walk with shame home that you didn't win. And for in that culture, it really mattered to them, the people that they were competing against. Maybe they could be proud that they even went to the Olympics, but that wasn't enough for them. They were tired of that. The same story and trying to convince themselves that was the case when the truth was the goal was the gold. The goal was not to be 16th. The goal was not to say, I got to qualify here. The goal was not to say, I got to work this job and make this income. The goal was, I went to school, I learned this skill, I did these things, I put the time in, right? Whichever one of those or if they were all applied to you. The goal was that at some point I was going to have control over my time and I was going to have the sense of freedom that was sold to me in this American dream, right? That I could have it all. not tied to this employer, not tied to somebody else saying what I can and can't have access to, that I could create that for myself, or that at least it's just possible. I'm okay with the fact that it's just possible. If that's the case, then you're saying that that is the goal, because otherwise, why would we all just be working paycheck to paycheck, right? The point is, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there, and you're waiting for somebody else to decide for you. That's just the truth. You're waiting for somebody else to decide, we're going to work harder than you and we're going to go and achieve it. And that's not going to feel fair. We're going to do this thing and we're going to get a different result. And that's not going to feel fair. Or we take control and we learn how to do it different so that you can claim those wins and you can change who is the hero of your story. We can do this. We've seen people do this a million times, but we know it's possible. We just need a beacon to guide the way. And this is how this team did it. And this is why we give away the boat. In 1998, a British rowing team dreaming of the Olympic gold found themselves ranked 7th. Their focus had always been on the competition day, but they realized the keys to reaching their highest potential were hiding in the decisions that they'd make over those next 2 years.
Faced with two obvious choices, continue their current path and expect the same result, or give up, they discovered a third transformative option. They united under one guiding question: will it make the boat go faster? Every decision, every action was weighed against this mantra. If the answer was yes, they could or would have to do it.
If the answer was no, it was forbidden, non-negotiable. Prior to the competition, this team was doubted and ridiculed, but no one knew what they had been doing. And once they hit the water, they were nearly unrecognizable, achieved their pinnacle, and won the gold. So we ask you,
What is your goal? What are you willing to do to achieve it?
will your story feel unrecognizable, even to you? Are you willing to light your beacon and stay focused, stay committed? Is your story non-negotiable, or are you waiting to find out how you ranked? Your financial future is not a game. You are only competing with yourself and those in the boat with you, your family and the many generations to come.
Will this make the boat go faster? A sounding alarm, a beacon of clarity amidst turbulent life decisions.
It's not just about speed, but direction, purpose, and an unwavering commitment. Every choice, every sacrifice aimed at the goal.
The first agreement this team made was to become fully self-directed, making their health their wealth, adopting a new perspective on their time and freedom, and the decisions they could fully control to reach their goal.
Will we make your boat go faster? That is our pledge to you. Our mission is to arm you with knowledge, strategies, and insights to ensure that not only you reach the goal, but you do so long before your race is over. Okay, here we go. Oh, I thought I had it down. All right, let's see who's gonna win a boat. What I hope is that we get people winning in here. We can only give one away now, so what I'm hoping is we can find a new person. But if you've been tuning in and you're giving these boats away, you deserve to win and you deserve to give them away too. So we love it all. Hey, be chill. Also, are we saying your name right? Because we probably need to know that at this point. Congratulations, by the way. Go to selfdirected.info/live and tell us where to send it, and we will get that over to you. Congratulations on getting your boat. And it's not just the boat, by the way, you know. It is the vision board starter kit that we've now created with all of this stuff in here. And it's awesome. It's got stuff, secrets underneath these pages. And as Sequia has pointed out many times, it also has gifts that keep on giving in here.
Right.
Which is the little shreds of paper that maybe we can talk about it sometime. Is this a good idea? Is this choosing violence? We don't know. You guys decide. Help us improve. Be an inspiration to somebody out there and share us out if we've helped you. We're here We're here every Sunday and Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And tell a friend to tell a friend. We love to see you guys in the chat. We love to see the comments for the replays too, by the way. And on that note, if you didn't come from a wealthy family,
You can make sure a wealthy family comes from you.
so stay tuned,
Stay protected.
stay focused.
Stay connected.
I'm Angelique,
And I'm Donnell.
and our goal is to help you.
Get self-directed.
And to do that, we have a ton of free resources. The workbook is just one of them. We have many, many, many more. We're going to tell you how today. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Hey, before you go, we want to remind you that becoming fully self-directed means gaining complete control over your wealth, time, and freedom. It's not just an idea. It's a framework, a mindset, and the power to make informed decisions to secure your future. Being here means you're taking those steps, and we want to thank you for allowing us to guide you. We believe that we grow farther and faster when we grow together. So tune in next time and tell a friend to tell a friend. We've helped thousands of people just like you start their journey to financial freedom. And if they can do it, you can too. And if you're ready to learn more, we got you. Get a head start by grabbing these 2 free books. But how do they get them, Donnell?
Head over to my website where you'll have access to a few things. A ton of free resources, case studies, and over 100 5-star reviews from people just like you. And in 15 minutes, we can explore what's possible for you. So don't wait.
Invest in what you want, when you want.
But first, let us help you get self-directed.
Self-directed.